Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes so sweet and sexy. Have fun, enjoy the journey. Or just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade. Sipping motions and lemonade. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Sack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Pro said, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Hello, my friends, and thank you so much for coming to spend part of your evening with me. Today is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. And do you know where your children are? It's almost 9 p.m. on the East Coast. I just was over on Courtroom Confidential with Josh Ritter, and we had a really fun conversation about the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case, which he didn't know a lot about. And I said before you went on the air, I said, Josh, are you sure you want to talk about this case? Are you sure? Because people are so dug into either side of that case, and there's even more hate and vitriol involved in that case from fans and viewers than there is in the Karen Read case. Like, it's bizarre. So I went over there and I tried to stay as neutral as possible, and I had a really great time. And I love Josh Ritter and his wife. His wife Tiffany is his producer. I like them both so much. They are really salt of the earth people. They're so warm and welcoming, and they're just really, really just real people. And he's a great attorney, and he now has a YouTube channel. So if you're not familiar, go on over there later to Courtroom Confidential and give him a like and a sub, and I think you'll like him too. So I did not do anything to my hair color. What you talking about, girl? No, it's just, you know what, the lighting behind me is dim. It's like late night. It's like Melanie After Dark. Thank you. I haven't touched it. So for those of you who are over there watching, thank you. Mama She, thank you for the 20. Yay, so good to see you on Courtroom Confidential. Had to leave though, because can't miss it. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you, sweetie. Yeah, he was doing some other stuff after. So I said, I gotta go. I gotta cover this Penny McGee. I gotta cover Penny McGee. Penny McGee. So many of you have asked me to cover this, and then it wasn't being televised, and I was listening to it on Zoom, and it was audio only. And then I was like, all right, well, and then all of a sudden today, Law and Crime decides that they're gonna do it live, except in true Judge Cannone fashion, it was only a half a day. So there were only 2 witnesses today. And I thought what we could do tonight is we could catch up on this Penny McGee trial. And then tomorrow they're coming back at 10 a.m. And so we can watch it together live tomorrow. And then Friday, of course, there will be no trial on McGee because Judge Cannone is going to be otherwise engaged with the Karen Read trial. So it's not going to, we're not going to miss a thing. So for those of you who don't know about this Penny McGee trial, let me just give you a little taste of what we're in for. Then we're going to watch the openings. We're going to watch some testimony, and then hopefully we can catch up before 10 a.m. tomorrow. And if we can't, then we'll come in a little early tomorrow, finish up whatever we didn't finish before court starts tomorrow at 10, or maybe we'll start a little bit late. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, because you know what? It's just me. I'm a one-woman show, and we kind of are spontaneous. We just go live whenever we feel like it. That's why you got to make sure you hit the subscribe button. Not only that, but I'm bumping up on 75,000 subscribers, and I would really like to get there. So if you guys hit that subscribe button, it's free. Hit the bell so you make sure that you get all the notifications. Who dropped a dime on Penny? Well done, Helen Handbasket. If you're new here, welcome. This is the funniest chat on the internet. It's the funniest chat And we have a lot of snark here. I call them the snark tank. So also the best moderators. Friday with Karen Reed. No, you didn't miss a thing. It's going to be the motion regarding Richard Green and whether or not the expert Richard Green can testify. The defense put in a fiery opposition yesterday, which we went over. And then in the evening, I had Mark Betterow on and we talked about Richard Green's affidavit, which was fire. I think Garino is going to be toast. But that's what's going to happen on Friday. So there's that. This is the case of Penny McGee. Penny McGee is a Rhode Island socialite who comes from a well-connected political family. And exactly 5 years ago, and this is so wild because today, of course, is the 3-year anniversary of the death of police officer John O'Keefe. May he rest in peace. Today is the 3-year anniversary of that horrific story. But 5 years ago on January 28th, and this is so wild that it's in the same courtroom as Karen Reed was, it's the same judge, and it is January 28th of 2020, which is wild to me. What is in the water in Norfolk County in January? I don't know. Penny McGee had been divorced from her husband, Andrew Savitz, for a while. I don't know exactly how long because this is like a brand new case for me. And Andrew Savitz was well-connected politically. Also, he, in fact, ran or was one of the, let's say, co-runners of the 1988 Michael Dukakis presidential campaign. For those of you who are from the Massachusetts area and who are old enough to remember, you might remember the Dukakis campaign all the way back in 1988. Well, Andrew Savitz was politically connected and he was in charge of that campaign. And because I'm trying to figure out what the duck we're doing here on trial, but anyway, here's what happened. January 28th, 2020. Penny McGee, who's divorced from her husband, Andrew, goes over to talk to Andrew because Andrew has served her with an eviction notice to get out of the house that I guess he owns. So I don't really know. That's what I'm thinking. Does she run in the same circles as Bev? Not she. Maybe he. Ipsy Dixit remembers the 88 Dukakis campaign. So what had happened was Penny goes over to confront Andrew about this email that she got that she's got to be evicted from wherever she's living that I guess he owns. We're going to find out more because we're going to watch this like the jury, but we're not going to watch it like the jury because Penny McGee waived a jury trial and is having a bench trial in front of Judge Cannone. So Judge Cannone is going to decide whether or not Penny McGee is guilty of manslaughter and will be sentenced to up to 20 years or 20 years in prison. So Penny goes to confront Andrew about this email to have her evicted, and she has an argument with him, and there's some controversy over whether she slapped him, whether she pushed him, whether he pushed her and dragged her by the hair. But what had happened was Andrew Savitz had a I feel like Kathy from Gossip Rumor and Innuendo right now, like don't come at me for the details, I'm just giving you the tea. But Andrew had a stroke 6 months prior to this. And when Penny's having this argument with him about why the duck are you evicting me, he has a heart attack and dies in the front foyer. And I'm not sure if he died right away or if he was still alive and then he went to the hospital and died a bit later. But in any event, they are now trying Penny McGee for manslaughter. But he died of a heart attack, you say. And I say, yes, I agree. Why are they trying? Why is she on trial for manslaughter? Why is she facing 20 years in prison? Is this a political persecution? Did Andrew Savitz have some political connection to the Norfolk County DA's office and Michael Marcy? Because why is this woman on trial for manslaughter? She didn't pull out a knife or a gun or cause his death. How are we going to prove causation? And then I was reading and it said that the medical examiner hasn't testified yet. So I'm glad that we're going to see that part together. The medical examiner's autopsy report says that he died from something like coronary artery disease, heart attack after an altercation. What the duck are we doing here? Yeah, is she a witch that can cause heart attacks? I don't know. But I kind of found this fascinating because so many of you brought it to my attention. Yeah, she slapped him, but that's it. But then hold on, because there's on the cross-examination today by Larry Tipton, who's the attorney for Penny McGee, who is also the attorney for Brian Walsh, who I've really grown to like from listening to the testimony. I like Larry Tipton. I think he's a really good attorney. Some things came out on cross today where it may not have been her slapping him. It may have been the other way around. And then there's some fiery testimony from their daughter, who was 18 at the time, who came down either in the middle of this altercation or after this altercation and may have seen some things, but she also may hate her mother. So it's really wild and it's interesting, right? Grace Space is like, yeah, that's her. She's the witch that caused my coronary arteries. Love the ducks. Love the ducks. Mama, she's here for it all. She is so here for it all. Thank you, Mama She. And thank you for the 5. And also thank you to Flamingo Chicky, who's been a member for a month and is thanking me. I know, I'm thanking you, because without you guys, I would be sitting here watching these trials anyway. I would just be screaming at my TV or screaming in my car at the radio while I'm listening to it in the car. And now I can scream about them with you. So there's, oh, Mary, you didn't get your notification? Mary, you got to make sure that you're set to all notifications. And also you got to make sure that on your phone, you have your phone enabled to give you YouTube notifications. So maybe somebody can help May Cronin figure that out. And here's Misty and Eddie. Misty and Eddie loves me. I love you too, girl. So yes, exactly. Carell says, so now everyone in Massachusetts should fear speaking to anyone over 40 in case they drop dead of a heart attack. Yeah. You know, there is this thing they taught us in law school. It's called the thin-skulled plaintiff rule, which means, for example, you take the plaintiff as you find them in a civil case. So let's say I'm in a car accident and I rear end the guy in front of me, very lightly or maybe not so lightly, but let's say he's got a pre-existing heart condition and he dies of a heart attack. I could technically be held liable for that heart attack, even though somebody who is in good health would not have died of a heart attack as a result of that collision. So you see, but that is something that you learn in torts class in law school, but that's civil law. So I don't know what the duck we're doing here, but I'm here for it and I'm into this. So you tell me if any of you have been following this. Heffa, what? That is exactly what Kathy says. Those of you guys who don't know, but Kathy over at Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo also became my new bestie, in addition to Josh Ritter. Kathy and I met during the coverage of the Brian Camp case. And for those of you who don't know about Brian Camp was tried in Hampshire County, Massachusetts, because a home invader came into his house and tried to kill him and his girlfriend, and maybe even their 2 young babies while they slept. And while the girlfriend was on the phone with 911 for more than 20 minutes, Brian Camp shot the home intruder. And then after the police didn't show up, because apparently they live in the sticks of Hampshire County, it took a long time for the first responders to get there. He shot Jonathan Latender, the home invader, again, and that's what killed him. And he was on trial in Hampshire County, Massachusetts, for manslaughter. But praise be, God save the Commonwealth, Brian Camp was acquitted, and we watched that together, and we were very nervous for him. And we also made a new friend during that case, defense attorney Tom Kokanowski, who is a Massachusetts defense attorney who practices, I think he's out of the Cape, but he goes to Hampshire County for guys like Brian Camp. And that was a really good day. And Brian Camp was acquitted right before Daniel Penny was acquitted. So we've had some good luck in 2024. But here we sit waiting for the re-persecution of Karen Reed. And now we're going to get to watch what happens with Penny McGee. But interestingly, Judge Cannone is going to decide Penny McGee's fate. And so I thought, who better to watch this with than all of you? So we're here for it. And that's what Kathy says. Heffa what? Heffa what? If you do not know, Jen is here for 6 months. I'm really looking forward to this case. Thanks for all your hard work. Our beautiful Queen of Cups. Oh, no, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. Okay, so if you do know about this Penny McGee case, if you know about it, put a 1 in the chat. And this is only for live chatters. It's so funny when people are on replay and they're putting like a 1 in the comments. So just if you know about the Penny McGee case, put a 1 in the chat. If you're like, Heffa, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Who's Penny McGee? Put a 2 in the chat. And just want to see how many people know. Oh, some people know. Good. All right. Have you guys been watching it? Because it was only on Zoom first. Then Law and Crime picked it up. So good. 111. Mama, she knows. Brown eye girl. A lot of people are like, hell no, we don't know what you're talking about. Okay, good. So we're going back to the courtroom of Judge Cannone. And this is Norfolk County, Massachusetts. God save the Commonwealth and all that. We're going to hear from some of our favorite people. Clerk Jim is there. I don't know if we'll see if the same court officers are there. We're going to see how they do things in Massachusetts, Mr. Jackson. We're going to see, because this happened in Brookline. And we're going to see how these detectives handled this case. And we're going to see what they did with the crime scene. Did they take photographs? They took photographs of Penny McGee's car, and her car was not involved in any way, shape, or form with the unfortunate unaliving of Andrew Savitz. That's more, look, I'm channeling Kathy right now. Madam Court Reporter, Madam Court Reporter. Hear ye, says Crunchy Frog. Yes. All right. So yes, she had wine in her car. Well, no spoilers if you're a head dragonfly. I know you know, and Yuri Buchanek is in it too. Yuri's here. Yuri's involved. He hasn't taken the stand yet though, right, Grace? We didn't miss that yet. So we're gonna get to see Yuri Buchanek come to the stand in this case, and it's fire, and I'm here for it. It's fire on acid, as I like to say. I thought I coined that phrase, but then somebody pointed out that somebody else said that in like the 60s. I genuinely thought I made that up. But alas, it appears that I did not. Oh, your maiden name is McGee? All right, cat artist. Are you related to Penelope? Apparently she's a Rhode Island socialite. Here we go. All right, openings are only about 20 minutes total. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Court TV had been doing this like live, but commercials, Julie Grant, all that. So I was like, hell no, can't do that. So we're catching up. All right.
On January 28th of 2020.
Okay. First thing I want to point out, this is, I can't remember her name. This is the assistant district attorney. She's with the Norfolk County DA's office. And can't remember her name. But what I want to point out to you is, in true Norfolk County fashion, the prosecutor, despite the fact that there's no jury here, is going to stand up directly in front of the judge because, in Massachusetts, the prosecutor's bench is attached to the judge's bench as if they are one. The judge and the prosecution are one. They are one. She stands up, gives her opening with her back to the defendant and the defense attorney. I find that to be in very poor form. Call me crazy. Call me a stickler for procedure. Get up, go back to the podium and give your opening like a real lawyer in a real courtroom. But she's very lovely. She has lovely hair. And so far, she's very respectful. But here's something else that I noticed. Well, you know what? I'm not going to point it out yet. I'm going to wait until it happens, and then I'm going to point it out and say, this reminds me of Lally. All right. Here we go. This trial just started, not yesterday, but the day before. What's today? I don't know. Started 2 days ago. Tell me if because the volume initially when it was put out was really bad. So if the volume is really low, tell me. And then what I'll do is I reduce my volume, and then you could turn your volume up, and then hopefully we'll modulate it. So let me know if the sound is okay.
25 years.
Wait.
On January 28th of 2020, 5 years ago today, the Savitz family lost a beloved brother and father, Andrew Savitz. Throughout the course of this trial, you are going to hear that Mr. Savitz passed away after an altercation with his ex-wife, the defendant before you today, Penelope McGee. You are going to hear throughout this trial that Mr. Savitz was in quite ill health, having suffered a stroke, been in 2 car accidents. He had diabetes and was experiencing memory loss and trouble with his peripheral vision. But most notably, Your Honor, Mr. Savitz suffered from severe cardiovascular disease, including a 90% stenosis of the right coronary artery. You will learn about Mr. Savitz through.
I just want to break for a second to say the right coronary, is that the one they call the Widowmaker? I used to ski a ski run called the Widowmaker. If you know, you know. But I think that's the Widowmaker. 90% occlusion.
His brother John, or about Mr. Savitz's medical condition, through his brother John Savitz, 4 sets of medical records that Your Honor will have a chance to review, including Beth Israel records from the auto accident, the Jocelyn Diabetes Center, his treatment at Mass Ioneer and the Newton Wellesley Hospital, as well as you will hear about his condition from the medical examiner that performed the autopsy, Dr. Rebecca Diedrich. You will also hear from Andrew Savitz's brother, John Savitz, that Ms. McGee was aware of all of these conditions and the ill health of Mr. Andrew Savitz on the date of this incident. You will see emails and text messages to John Savitz from Penelope McGee, updating him on Andy's various conditions, medical conditions, medications, and medical appointments. You'll also hear that Ms. McGee was the healthcare proxy to Mr. Andrew Savitz. Then you're going to hear from Andrew Savitz's daughter, Zuzzie Savitz.
Wait, I have to rewind that. Okay, Jennifer Blair is her name. She is the Assistant District Attorney of Norfolk County that is trying this case. Did she just say that Penny McGee was the healthcare proxy for him and they were divorced? Did he forget to change his healthcare proxy? Hold on, I have questions already.
And medical appointments. You'll also hear that Ms. McGee was the healthcare proxy to Mr. Andrew Savitz.
Yeah.
Then you're going to hear from Andrew Savitz's daughter, Zuzzie Savitz. She's going to tell you what she saw happen that night on January 28th of 2020. Zuzzie heard her mother come over to the home at 40 Meadowbrook Road in Brookline, where she was living with her father and her younger brother, Harry. Zuzzie Savitz heard her parents arguing that night when her mother came to the house, and she could hear yelling and screaming. And when she went downstairs, she could see that her parents were in an argument. She heard something break, which we later found out, the court will find out, was a ceramic bowl.
Okay, if you're not looking at the screen and you want to see, get a look at Penny. Here's Penny. Here's Penny in the, I don't know what color that is, maybe like a camel color sweater. And this is her attorney to the right of your screen, Larry Tipton, who is also representing Brian Walsh. And then you see the same weird setup that we saw during the Karen Reed trial, where the O'Keefes used to sit staring down Karen Reed, behind Larry Tipton, or to the right, actually, of your screen. You can see all of those people staring down the defendant, and that's usually where the victim's family sits. And then behind where the defendant is usually where her family gets to sit. And there's only 10 seats for each family. And then behind where the victim's family sits, there's like a, it's like a high top. It's like a high top counter where there is 10 seats for media. It's a very, very tiny courtroom with a wonky layout. It's the same courtroom where they had the original trial of Karen Reed.
You'll see pictures of that broken bowl. But Zuzzie's going to tell you she heard something break, and she went back upstairs to get her phone to call 911. She's going to tell you that she got her phone from her bedroom, called 911, and as she was coming down the stairs, she could see her parents in the hallway by the end of the stairs at the house towards the front door, and she saw her mother hitting and shoving her father against a wall where there was a sliding closet, and you're going to hear the 911 call, Your Honor. You're going to hear Zuzzie telling her parents to stop. And then in the middle of that phone call, Zuzzie's going to tell you she heard she saw her father collapse to the ground, and Ms. McGee started trying to give him CPR. Zuzzie was calling the ambulance to come quickly. The paramedics arrived. The Brookline police arrived. You're going to hear from the paramedic. You're going to hear from the responding officer from the Brookline police, all of whom tried to administer CPR and tried to resuscitate Mr. Savitz. Mr. Savitz was brought to the Beth Israel Hospital, where you're going to hear from the emergency room doctor that also treated him and tried to revive him, and ultimately pronounced him deceased at 12:14 a.m. In the early morning hours of January 29th of 2020. Lastly, Your Honor, you are going to hear from the medical examiner, Dr. Rebecca Diedrich. Dr. Diedrich is going to explain to you how Mr. Savitz's conditions prevented his heart from handling the fight or flight response that was happening during the altercation with Ms. McGee. Dr. Diedrich going to tell you her opinion as to what the official cause of death was of Mr. Andrew Savitz. She's going to explain that her opinion is that he suffered from cardiac dysrhythmia following an altercation in a person with hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and diabetes mellitus.
Okay. Put a pause on this for a second. We're going to go back and we're going to listen to that again. That is what the doctor who did the autopsy, the medical examiner, her name is Dr. Rebecca Diedrich, Dedrick, and I don't know why that name is familiar to me. Is she also the medical examiner in another case that we're watching or following? So you tell me if you recognize her name. Listen to, did I have this sped up? No, this is on, oh wait, is it? It's a little bit sped up. No, it's on regular speed. She does talk fast, right? Okay. Sometimes I speed it up when I listen to it, and then I forget to change the setting. But here's the medical examiner's opinion of the cause of death. Listen, I would like to know what the manner of death is. If she said homicide or accidental, that or natural. Okay, here's what her opinion is as to his cause of death.
And is that he suffered from cardiac dysrhythmia following an altercation in a person with hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and diabetes mellitus.
Okay, so he's got high blood pressure, arteriosclerotic disease, diabetes, and after an altercation, he died, and that's the cause of his death. This is so far beyond the pale of that. It's wild that this woman is on trial for manslaughter. Wild to me. And so I'm only thinking, why? Who did he have connections to? What is there political pressure from the family on the Norfolk County DA's office to treat this like a manslaughter case? This man died of a heart attack. He was very, very sick. He was 66. Yeah, he was very, very sick. And Bev is going to decide her fate. I'm sorry, Judge Cannone is going to decide her fate. And I don't know. We're going to see how she treats defense attorney Larry Tipton compared to how she treats Alan Jackson and Miss Yanez. But he's a rich guy. Mary says, yeah, maybe. I mean, this prosecutor just told you exactly what the medical examiner said. So that's the cause of death.
Andrew Savitz was in ill health. His diabetes and cardiovascular disease was severe, and Penelope McGee knew it. Despite Mr. Savitz's condition, Ms. McGee went over to his house on the night of January 28, 2020. She was yelling and screaming, hitting and shoving him. His heart couldn't handle the stress of the altercation, and he collapsed and passed away.
Okay. What the duck are we doing here? I'm just going to point out Penny McGee, praise be, has been out on bail since this thing happened 5 years ago. Exactly 5 years ago yesterday. And now she is facing 20 years in prison on a manslaughter charge when this man died of a heart attack. And you know what's so interesting to me too is that, I mean, this prosecutor really believes in her case. Like, she's trying to really sell this to the judge. How was this not dismissed? I don't know.
After you hear all of this evidence, Your Honor, I am confident that you will find Penelope McGee guilty as charged.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that was the state's open. You're going to see these a lot briefer than we would in a jury trial, right?
Okay, no, I cannot. I'm sorry, Julie Graham, but we didn't come here for her. We came here to just listen to, and this is what you had to suffer through if you were trying to watch this on Court TV proper. They didn't have it streaming on YouTube. It was just, you had to be watching it on courttv.com and then go through the commercials like we had to do for a lot of the Brian Camp trial. Remember, I was going to throw something at the screen. Here we go. And now it's Larry Tipton's turn. That was a very quick opening. And here is the opening for the defense.
The evidence will show that Ms. McGee was married to the deceased for approximately 15 years and they divorced about 6 years before this incident. But nonetheless, the evidence will show that they continued to work together to raise 3 children, get their children into college. They talked frequently, almost daily sometimes. At some point, Ms. McGee moved into a home that was owned by the brother-in-laws of the deceased. It was in Brookline. It was close by. It was close by the medical home where Mr. Savitz also resided. She lived there in Randolph with her 3 children. At some point, the brother-in-laws chose to evict her. They did so. That eviction was formalized on January 3rd, 2020. During that same time, the days leading up to January 3rd, you'll hear evidence that both Mr. Savitz and Ms. McGee worked continually together as they sought to get their daughter Zuzzie in college. They talked frequently. She ran errands for him, he ran errands for her. At that time, January 3rd of 2020, he was working, he was traveling, he was enjoying his life. One of the things he liked to do was gamble. He did that. He was functioning.
Oh, he was a gambler. Okay, what have we learned so far? So far, we have learned they've been divorced for 6 years. They have 3 children together. Zuzzie is the daughter, Zuzzia, Zuzzie. They were talking about getting her into college. She was living in a house that was owned by his brothers, apparently, her brother-in-laws, and that they chose to evict her and her 3 kids. It's interesting because the prosecutor said that Zuzzie and her brother Harry were living with the dad, Andrew Savitz, but Larry just said all 3 kids were living with Penny in a home in Brookline that was owned by the decedent Andrew Savitz's brothers, and they had her evicted, and the eviction became the eviction was formalized or came into effect on January 3rd, and this happened January 28th.
He also texted, and the evidence will show that he invited Ms. McGee to reside at Meadowbrook while she looked for other housing.
Oh,
But there was an issue. The evidence will show that there was a significant issue of the relationship that had deteriorated between Ms. McGee and her daughter. So there was an arrangement made. She could not appear at Meadowbrook unless her daughter was up in her room and in bed, maybe studying. And they both abided by it. Backing up a little bit, you'll hear that around August 18th of 2019, Mr. Savitz told his ex-wife he'd been in a car accident, a serious one. The car was totaled. He went to the hospital.
was it with Helena Rafferty? That's what I want to know. Did he have a car accident with Helena Rafferty? Oh, I don't know. We might not know that because, it might still be secret. Tee.
Medical records that we introduced into evidence will show that he didn't listen to medical advice. And in fact, in the words of the hospital records, he eloped. He left. Ms. McGee found out about it, talked to her ex-husband, got him an immediate appointment at his personal care physician, Dr. Mann. Got him to see Dr. Mann within a day. Dr. Mann said, I think he has some problems or words of that effect that are contained in the medical records, and recommended that Mr. Savitz go to the emergency room because of cognitive issues and a question of whether he would suffer a stroke. They did that. Who did that? Ms. McGee. She took him immediately to the emergency room. Any question about whether Ms. McGee knew about certain medical conditions of Mr. Savitz is somewhat beside the point, because the evidence will show that she cared for him for days and weeks following the car accident and the diagnosis of stroke. She moves in. She's allowed to stay in Middlewood. She's allowed to stay in her older son's bedroom upstairs with that condition that the evidence would show. Her older son, Noah, had now left home to go to college at Drexel in Pennsylvania. On January 20th, Mr. Savitz was in yet another car accident, this time while he was driving their younger son, Harry. He reported it to his brother-in-laws, and the evidence will show that Ms. McGee was worried about that, concerned about that.
Maybe you shouldn't be driving.
Notwithstanding that they totaled in the accident, Mr. Savitz totaled his son Noah's car, but the fact that Harry was in the car, the youngest. And so she had a discussion, and there will be evidence. Importantly, though, the evidence will show that with regards to the causation and manner of death, as the Commonwealth just told the court it expects to introduce, the relevant literature says that the physiological issue that Dr. Diedrich will testify to can occur as a result of motor vehicle accidents. Because it's the way the body responds hormonally to the stress associated with such an event. So there is a car accident, a serious one in August, where a car is totaled, but there is no car attack. There is no cardiac arrest. There's a second motor vehicle accident in January 20th. There is no cardiac event. Why is that important? Because when you look at the hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of records that are already introduced or we agreed to introduce them in total, you won't see one reference in hundreds of pages of any complaints about chest pain, defibrillation, any diagnosis of cardiac issues other than high blood pressure, sometimes referred to as hypertension. That's it. No medication, no complaints from Mr. Savitz about anything wrong with his heart other than the high blood pressure. Why is all this important? Because the evidence will show that Mrs. McGee cared for Mr. Savitz and got him back into good health and then interacted with him as if he was in good health. And she took pains to make sure he was in good health. And so it contradicts what the evidence the Commonwealth presumes to admit and presumes to state, that she conducted herself that night on January 28th of 2020 with a disregard for the likelihood that her conduct would result in substantial harm. What happened that night? Text messages show that about 7:30 on January 28th, there was a communication between Mr. Savitz and Ms. McGee. He said, I'm paraphrasing now, but the evidence would show that he said, I expect you to come over. Would you take your shoes off when you climb up the stairs? And that was all part of that arrangement where Ms. McGee could stay up in Noah's room as long as Zuzzie was not, the daughter, was not in her bed. Because there was this friction.
Okay, the closed captioning keeps referring to the daughter as Susie, but her name is actually Zuzzie, Z-U-Z-Z-I-E. How do I know? Because I've been following this case and reading up on it. Zuzzie.
And also during the day, the text messages will show that Mr. Savitz made some very upsetting and disparaging remarks to Ms. McGee as he rehashed the eviction. And it upset her. But it was just more of the same, and they had worked through this before, as the text messages show. And so she drove over there, parked her car, went in to see if Zuzzie was upstairs before she could go inside, and she was upstairs. The evidence would show that Mr. Savitz then asked Ms. McGee, sit down on the living room couch, watch TV. They started to do that. They had some conversations about some behavioral issues with Zuzzie. And that's when Mr. Savitz began to become upset.
All right, hang on. I want to enlarge this for you so that we can see the defendant better and the attorney better, and we don't need to see all their graphics that we've already been watching the whole time. But I think that's one of the court officers that we recognize from the Karen Reed trial. Does he look familiar to you? A little bit.
The evidence will show that then the conversation turned to this text where Mr. Savitz had somewhat ridiculed Ms. McGee about the eviction from Randolph Street. And that is when he told Ms. McGee to get out of the house. And he raised his voice. And he demanded that she leave. And Miss McGee got up from the living room couch, was headed to her coat, was laid over the back of the couch back. And before she could reach it, Mr. Savitz grabbed her at some point on her body and pushed her into the living room wall that you'll see in so many of the photographs.
Photos of the crime scene, imagine.
Then what ensued after that was a yelling match where Mr. Savitz demanded she leave and began to push her into the kitchen area, pushed her against some tables that contained, as the photographs show, any number of dishes. And one such dish fell over and apparently smashed onto the floor. And he continued to push her, and he continued to grab her. And the path that he was making was a path directly to the front door. And now he was grabbing her hair, and he pushed her against the refrigerator. He pushed her into the area that's...
He grabbed her by the hair. And he's pushing her against the wall and against the stove.
So, all of which, as he was pushing her toward the front door. And now he had a hold of her body, he had a hold of her hair, and he was simply trying to get her out of the house, and she was moving backwards, not understanding what was happening. All of this happening in a short period of time, with yelling and chaos. And as she tried to defend herself, and only defend herself, Mr. Savitz collapsed. Where does he collapse? He collapsed right near the front door. The front door that he was pushing and fighting Miss McGee. He collapsed. He fell to the ground. And what did Miss McGee do? The evidence will show part of it coming from the 911 call made by her daughter.
Oh boy, so he's saying this is a self-defense case.
And this is what Julie Grant does. She interrupts the testimony to tell us what she's thinking. And this is why I can't watch it live on court TV. So we're gonna go a little bit fast forward. Okay. Jeez. The love of the traveling Mary.
Opening statement here. We're gonna hit a break. We'll be right back.
Of plotting to kill her
Right,
husband.
This is what they do. All right, here we go. The Socialite. They're calling it the Socialite manslaughter trial.
Manslaughter trial.
Changed her findings. And as a result of that,
Oh, well, that's interesting because they cut off an entire part of his opening because the part that we are left with is changed her findings. Are we talking about the medical examiner changing her findings? Like, don't we think that that's an important part of the opening that perhaps we should not cut out for Julie Grant's commentary and their commercials on court TV? Are you ducking kidding me? All right, well, somebody changed. I guess she changed her findings, the medical examiner. I want to know more about that. But I guess we're going to have to wait for the medical examiner to take the stand. Wow.
Manslaughter trial.
changed her findings. And as a result of that, the allegations against that particular person charged with the death of Aston True was, in the parlance of legal terms, no cause. They ended the prosecution. This is the same medical examiner that made her conclusions in this case. The evidence will show that relevant literature that tried to address this so-called phenomena referred to as homicide by heart attack, that starting in 1978 required strict criteria to be applied by medical examiners in trying to reach the same conclusion that Dr. Diedrich reached. And then there is a 2002 guide for medical examiners that the evidence will show that is the only thing that Dr. Diedrich apparently relied on, that tells medical examiners really nothing at all. And then you'll hear evidence that the relevant literature, published 2 years later, in 2004, authored by Dr. Turner, revisits the strict criteria to be applied in these so-called homicide by heart attack cases where there is a physical touch. And one of their criteria is to determine the intent of the actor, that what the actor did to cause the harm was criminal. That's what the evidence would show. And yet, the evidence will show that this case is about self-defense, being attacked. The relevant literature will also talk about the stress reaction occurring, as I stated a minute ago, motor vehicle accidents, but also anger on behalf of the deceased in situations. Anger triggers the same physiological response that Dr. Eager talks about as she rests on finding her opinion. And
Interesting that somebody said she changed her opinion. Buchanan is involved in this case. And remember that Yuri Buchanan and Michael Proctor were talking with their cronies on their group text message with regard to trying to strong arm the medical examiner into changing her manner of death on John O'Keefe's death certificate, but she wouldn't bite. So I wonder Buchanan has any hand in this.
making a homicide. Fine. Respectfully, Judge, we believe that once you consider all of the evidence and all the testimony, that based on the science and based on the lack of reliable assessments made by Dr. D, you will find Ms. McGee not guilty. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Did you hear Judge Bev's voice? Did it trigger you? Did it trigger you? Are you triggered? What do you guys think? What do you think about Larry Tipton? Should we keep going? Should we keep going? What do you think? Yes, they did know. Jazia, great question. Says, did they know who the judge was when they decided against a jury trial? Yes, because they just decided right before openings that they were going to waive a jury trial, and they were going to, right before, I guess they were supposed to start jury selection. So it was just only this week when they decided to waive that jury trial and have Judge Bev do a bench trial. So this is going to be very, very interesting. Nona Robbins says law and crime does not interrupt. You are correct. However, they did not start televising this trial until today. So we are stuck with the court TV coverage first to get through day one. And it was only half a day today in Judge Cannone's courtroom. So there were only 2 witnesses today, both on law enforcement. So thank you for pointing that out. I do know that. We're going to go to law and crime after we finish the first day. So there's that. And Lady Zelda says, if I ever do anything wrong, I hope not in Canton. Midnight Mike says, Melanie has the Cancun glow. Oh, thanks, Mike. You're so sweet. I got to know, says the positioning in the courtroom is prejudicial. I agree. But here's the thing. The Karen Reed trial was originally supposed to be in that really big courtroom where we watched all of the pretrial hearings. And it's a beautiful old courtroom, gorgeous ceilings. It's historic, this courtroom. Sacco and Vanzetti were tried there all the way back, I think, in the 1920s. And Vinnie Politan loves to say that every single time he talks about Norfolk Superior Court. However, in that courtroom, apparently, the jury box is seated where part of the jurors, a section of maybe like 1/3 of the jury, would be looking at the back of the witness's head. So for the first time in 100 years, Karen Reed's defense team made a motion to the judge to say, Judge, we need to move courtrooms because we want the jury to be able to see the witness's face. And she said, well, Mr. Jackson, that's how we do things here in Massachusetts. And cases have been tried in that courtroom for 100 years. And he said, I don't care how it's always been done, Judge. I think we need to move the courtroom. And so they did move the courtroom. The only problem is now it's a smaller courtroom, but at least the jurors can see the face of the witnesses. So there's that. Better what the Irish says, note to self, no talking to anyone unhealthy in Massachusetts. Yes. Yeah. Deborah says, new poster. Hi, Deborah Coons. No, I don't. I got a new poster. I didn't frame it yet. A new Dave poster from Cancun. Maybe I'll swap out one of these. But these, I'm just like, the camera's like a little bit different today. You can see more of them. And Deborah Coons, I've asked you this before, but I'm going to ask you again because maybe you don't want to answer. Jerry Garcia's wife, when he passed away, was a woman by the name of Deborah Coons, spelled the same way as you. Are you Jerry Garcia's wife? Or is that just your real name? Or is that just your YouTube name? Do you know? Do you know that Jerry Garcia was married to a woman named Deborah Coons? I'm so curious about that. Mark says that Penny must trust Bev to not convict her for some reason. I don't know. Or she saw what happened in the Karen Reed case and she's like, hell to the no, I'm not trusting my life in the hands of a jury in Norfolk County. Because they might just find me guilty when it is clear that there is no causation between first of all, he was beating the bejesus out of me. It was called in as a domestic. And second of all, he was completely unhealthy. And it wasn't me that killed him. It was his conditions that killed him. So she didn't want to risk a jury, I think. Am I the victim or the crime? And there's Sua Sponte coming in with a Grateful Dead quote, coincidentally, after Deborah Coons's comment. And look, this is random, gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so very much. That's very, very kind and generous of you. This is random gifting. Welcome to the 10 new members because Joseph Kane also gifted 5 memberships. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. All right. Moving on. The next witness to take the stand is the brother of the victim, of the decedent, Andrew Savitz, who is the one who apparently was having Penny evicted from his house. So let's take a look at that. See what we have to say about this guy. Oh, Sarah, thank you for being the best of what's around. Oh, Dave Matthews. I was not Dave Matthews. I know Sarah, who's an amazing moderator and also amazing contributor to this channel. And is so amazing. And I knew that she loves the song Grace Is Gone. So I didn't even think about going live from the show. And then when I heard him start playing Grace Is Gone, I'm like, oh my God, I got to play this for Sarah. And I didn't even know if you would even see it because it wasn't scheduled anything. And then you were there. So I'm glad you got to see it. And also thank you for standing out for 24 hours for Officer John O'Keefe. And I heard that you were there yesterday. Somebody put it in the chat. So thank you, Sarah. In shock and horror. And yes, I do. I love you with all of my heart. I love you with all of my heart too. So I'm glad that you enjoyed that. I enjoyed it so much and it was great to enjoy it with you guys. Stacey, thanks for the 20. My father had a widowmaker in June 2023 with 100% blockage. He coded twice and was life flighted to the Houston Medical Center where he remained on life support for 3 weeks. He was given less than 10% survival. And by miracle, he's here today. Wow. That's amazing news. That's amazing. Thank you so much for your $20 super chat to tell us that amazingly happy story. I'm really, really happy for you and your dad. So if your dad is watching, hey, congrats. Oh, I think my daughter must be in FaceTime on the next room because she's like squealing. She's always FaceTiming somebody. Okay, here we go. First witness in the case of the prosecution, God Save the Commonwealth, is the victim's brother, Jonathan Savitz. And this, again, is on Court TV website, so we may have to fast forward through some commercials. So let me just see if... It says the page is unresponsive. Hang on. Non-responsive like Andrew Savitz. Not funny. That was just, my attempt at dark humor. Okay, it's unresponsive, so we're gonna have to exit. And then I got the aw snap. You know the aw snap? You guys get the aw snap ever? I've been getting aw snap a lot lately when I'm on YouTube. I don't know why. All right, now they're gonna make me sit through a commercial, but I'll do it so you don't have to. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. All right, here we go. Here is brother of victim. It would be good if I shared the screen with you. Just let me know that the volume is okay on this.
Back to January of. Now, drawing your attention back to January of 2020.
That's great because they started like obviously in the middle because that's not her first question. If she's drawing his attention back, but we get what we get and we don't get upset, as they used to say in preschool.
Where was your brother Andy living at the time?
He was living at Meadowbrook, 40 Meadowbrook Road.
And do you know who he lived there with?
He lived there with his...
Let me just move the captions. Oh.
And which children?
I can't move the captions, sorry.
Noah was off at school. Zuzzie was there.
It's not letting me move the camera. Sorry.
And do you know where Ms. McGee was living back in January of 2020?
I do.
Where was she living?
She was living there at 40 Meadowbrook.
And prior to living at 40 Meadowbrook, where did Ms. McGee live?
79 Randolph Road.
And what city or town is that?
I think it was technically Chestnut Hill at Brookline. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. And do you know who owned the house at 79 Randolph Road where Ms. McGee was living prior to January of 2020?
Yes, I did.
Who owned that home?
A trust.
And who was the trustee of the trust?
I was.
And how long did Ms. McGee live in the house that was owned by the trust in at 79 Randolph Road?
Not exactly sure. I think it was 16 or 15, 16, somewhere in there. That's when it started, I think.
And do you know who Ms. McGee lived with at that home?
I'm not sure. I think the kids sometimes stayed there. I don't exactly know now.
At some point, did the trust intend to sell 79 Randolph Road?
It did.
Uh-oh. That wasn't me. That's them. What happened? Don't give me all snap again. Come on, man. I think it's being non-responsive again. Hold on. Again, unresponsive. But the duck. All right, we're going to try this again. I think Court TV does not want us watching their feed. We're going to try this again. We may need to refresh the browser, so hang on a second. Let's see. Where's the brother? Okay, so talk amongst yourselves for a second. It's Meadowbrook, not Meadows. John O'Keefe lived at 1 Meadows, and this is Meadowbrook Road. But yeah, some weird similarities because it's also January 28th. This is 2020. John O'Keefe was 2022. Okay, so he's the trustee. The trust owns the house. Penny's living there with her 3 children. And this guy, Jonathan, the brother, decides he's going to evict her. And that's where we are right now, right here, right now.
It did.
And could you explain for the court the circumstances surrounding that decision?
Sure. My brother Peter, unfortunately, got ill. He was basically cleaning up a bunch of his estate. And one of the assets in the estate was in that trust. And so he decided to sell that house.
And at some point, so when the decision was made to sell the house, what was communicated or what was decided with regards to Ms. McGee, who was living in that house?
There were leases. I believe it was 6 months before the lease came up. That it was communicated that the lease would not be renewed.
Thank you, Goodmans.
And, once the lease was not renewed, did Ms. McGee move out of the home?
No.
And what happened as a result of Ms. McGee not leaving the home?
An eviction case was brought.
They evicted her and her children.
Who initiated the eviction proceedings?
The trust.
And how long did those proceedings go on?
Started in April of 18, 1.5 years.
He's mad about it.
And during the course of the
He's mad about it. He's evicting his brother's wife and children from the house because she didn't pay the rent or they wanted to sell the house or whatever. Eviction proceedings do take a long time. But like, really? And he's like defending himself. I don't know. I don't like this guy. Sorry. Not sorry. Oh, thanks, Midnight Mike. So Goodman's gifted a membership. And look, so did Midnight Mike. Thank you, Midnight Mike.
those proceedings, where was Ms. McGee living?
In the house.
And was there eventually a judgment made in the case, in the eviction case regarding Ms. McGee and the property at 79 Randolph Road?
There was a settlement.
And as part of the settlement, was Ms. McGee, did Ms. McGee agree to leave the residence?
She did.
And when was that agreement reached?
Agreement was reached in November of 19.
So somebody said, I thought you couldn't evict
And,
during the panty. Thank you for not typing out that word. YouTube hates it. But it was in 2019 when they finally got a judgment of eviction or whatever he's saying. So good question.
What were the terms for Ms. McGee leaving the property?
The terms were she was to pay a certain amount of money. In exchange for that, she was going to be paid, or not she, but the movers were going to be paid by the trust, or by Peter, and that she'd vacate the house by December 31st, 2019.
And did that happen?
No, the terms were extended for 3 more days, and she left the house on January 3rd of 2020.
And what was the year, January 3rd of which year?
2020.
Now, after January 3rd of 2020, where did Ms. McGee, are you aware of where Ms. McGee lived?
I learned that she was living at my brother's.
At some point in 2019, did you learn that your brother Andy had been in a car accident?
I did, yes.
And do you know how you found out about that accident?
He texted me.
May I approach your honor? Yes.
Yes.
Ms.
Members.
Crawford, would you see exhibit number
Well,
eight?
members, we get to reuse some of our emojis from the Karen Reed trial, the sigh emoji. Yes. See some sigh emojis in the chat.
Mr. Savitz, I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 8. Do you recognize this document?
Yes,
What is it?
it's text between me, my brother Peter, my brother Matt, my brother Andy.
And what is the date that text message thread begins?
Starts on August 15th, 2019.
And with regards to the content of that, what is this text thread about?
This text thread starts fairly ominously with Andy saying, if something should happen to me, please remember that I have a $2 million life insurance policy.
Oh, really? So now, okay, I see where they're going with this. Okay. If something should happen to me, not like she's going to kill him. Like he has so many medical problems that he might die because he was just in a very serious car accident. Okay.
And it's about the accident and that he's in the hospital.
And do you recognize the phone number that is texting as being your brother Andy?
I do.
And if you could please turn, so during the course of this thread, what is your brother Andy telling you and your brothers?
He basically said that he had some cognitive issues and he tried to drive and he was in a bad collision and he was now in the hospital and he's in the hospital and they're checking him out.
And did he tell you if anybody was with him at the hospital?
He did. He told me that a friend of our son who was there, Dakota Fenn.
And at some point, does he tell you that Ms. McGee is there to be with him?
Yes, at some point he says Penny is coming.
And if I could please turn your attention to page 5. Ms. Crawford, could you please go to the larger paragraph at the bottom?
Ooh, texting. Wait a second. Did you hear what she just said? Did you hear what she just said? She said, Ms. Crawford, can you go to the text message at the bottom? Do you think that's Colleen Crawford working the overhead projector in the courtroom in Norfolk County, who is going to be an expert witness in the Karen Reed trial? Who's like the head of like digital forensics in the Norfolk County DA's office? That's what I said. Is that Colleen Crawford? Ms. Crawford. That's what I heard her say. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger so we can read the messages ourselves. But that would be kind of wild if Ms. Colleen Crawford is in the courtroom. This was from yesterday, I think. Of course it is, says May. Bridget Whalen says it's definitely her. Kate is loving a crossover episode. This is what we're doing. We're like, it's like Law and Order crossing over with Law and Order SVU, crossing over with Law and Order Organized Crime. It's like Elliot Stabler and Benson together again for one long 3-hour episode. Let me rewind that a smidgen. Because I want to hear her say Ms. Crawford. Ms. Crawford may have some explaining to do. Because, you know, Karen Reed's expert showed up at Canton PD. Ms. Crawford met him. And he's like, I'm here. I'm here to get the Sallyport video from your DVR machine. And she's like, what? What? Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. Yep. Nope.
To the larger paragraph at the bottom of the page.
Wait. Sorry, I didn't go back far enough.
Yes, right there. Be with it.
Yes, at some point he says Penny is coming.
And if I could please turn your attention to page 5. Ms. Crawford, could you please go to
It sounded like Miss Crawford to me. I could be wrong, but it really sounded like Miss Crawford.
the larger paragraph at the bottom of the page? Yes, right there. Mr. Savitz, I'm going to draw your attention to the text message that is dated 8/21/19 at 8:46 p.m. Do you see that paragraph there?
I do.
Where was this, which phone number was this paragraph received from?
From my brother Andy's.
And are you aware of who was writing the text from your brother Andy's phone?
Yes,
And who was it?
it's Penny.
And how do you know it was Penny?
Just the language, you know.
Well,
It's
it also
kinda-
says, hey, it's Penny in the first sentence. So, yeah.
I've received and we've received a lot of these messages.
Could you please
like
read the text message that came from your brother's phone?
Sure. It's Penny. Peter, so nice of you to text or call your brother to see how he is. John, nice text. You could have called your brother. Matt is the only one who called. Your brother has had I think it's a stroke, but it's stroke. He has minimized it, but this is a serious situation. He is still in the hospital. Last text I will send you, and I have no intention to update you. I gave you the opportunity, and you rejected it. You are on the do not visit list, and the doctors are instructed not to talk to any of you. As far as I'm concerned, you're all bastards given your lack of concern.
Oh,
Andy has designated me as healthcare proxy, and Fen is second. This is our family's concern, and you have nothing to offer. Stay away. If and when Andy wants to give you any information, that is up to him. Sadly, you don't have the ability to put aside our differences for the health of your brother, which makes you worse human beings than I thought you were.
oh, no love lost between Penny and the brothers. It seems like the brothers hate Penny. It seems like Penny hates the brothers. And it seems like the brothers were not around when her ex-husband was having all of his medical problems. They didn't even call or text to check in on him after his accident.
Oh boy. Okay. So it's getting heated in these text messages. So now we're seeing a little bit more about the family.
No, I'm sorry. I can't do it, you guys. You know I can't do it. We're just going to fast forward a little bit.
What was going on, the dynamic between all these brothers and the
She's going to have one of her talking heads on, you know,
Defendant
because they can't just watch the ducking
Living for
testimony.
over 45 years has taken a toll on my body. I take
All right, we got to let Tony Hawk go. Yeah, do you see how they take a text message and twist it into something it isn't? And also, these text messages actually have dates and times on them. They may actually be authenticated, right? They may actually be authenticated and real. And Colleen Crawford seems to be running the overhead projector. This is a crossover episode like none other. I'm stealing that. Whoever said crossover episode, can I steal it? Sorry, I forget who. Yeah, Tony, no, we're pretending we aren't. Oh, aging. I think you said arguing. Pierre loves Tony Hawk. All right. Really? Because we didn't have enough commercials already? We don't want the opening statements. Oh, this is what they're going to do. This is what they do. And then it's going to go, oh, snap. Well, you know what? The good news is there's a rose and a thorn here. The good news is that tomorrow on Long Crime, we're going to get to start watching it live at 10 a.m. And who knows if it'll be a full day for Judge Cannone tomorrow, but we're going to be here for it if you guys want. Okay, we were somewhere over here, and then we got stuck in this commercial loop. Now we're going to have to wait again. Oh, I did get new earrings, but I don't have them on right now. I did, but there's this guy in Cancun. His name's Javier, and he makes Dave Matthews earrings every year for Cancun. And then right after Dave Matthews is done, like right now this weekend, Fish is playing, which is why you were lucky enough to see Trey Anastasio play night 3 with me in Cancun with Dave Matthews. So Fish is there. So then Javier makes all this Fish jewelry. And also Dead Ahead played there before, in like 2 weeks before Dave. So they do all the Grateful Deadhead jewelry. And yeah, there's that. But OMG, they're kicking me out. They're kicking me out. And we're going back. All right, you're going to have to take my word for it that the brother is like an SOB. And then maybe if one day we can get that to actually work, we'll go back and we'll finish his testimony. But what we're going to do next is we're going to go to the daughter's testimony, Zuzzie. Zuzzie is going to testify. And then today there were 2 law enforcement witnesses that testified. We're just going to say brother Jonathan is a duck and jerk, and leave it at that. He evicted her. There was no love lost there, and probably there were some things done that were not so nice. All right, where is Zuzzie? Here's Zuzzie. Again, all right, well, at least this is the other guy who is not so bad. I forget his name on Court TV. It's not Julie. It's this guy. I want to say Ted Daniel, but he's not Ted Daniel. His name is Ted something. Okay.
Penelope McGee. This is a bench trial, so it's going to be all up to Judge Beverly Cannone of
he made fun of her
Karen
name.
Reed fame. They're all in the same courtroom as the Karen Reed case, fan included. She's going to decide whether McGee's guilty or not of manslaughter. Prosecutors say that McGee knew her husband, ex-husband, Andrew, had cardiac issues when she got into an argument with him.
Ted Rollins, thank you.
So now she's
Rollins.
charged with manslaughter. Next witness, this is a big one. Zuzzie Savitz. This is the daughter of the victim and the defendant. She was there. This case may ride on what she has to say. Let's watch.
And who did you live there with?
My dad and my brother Harry.
Okay, this is Zuzzie. I'm going to enlarge Zuzzie so we can watch her better. Her last name is Savage. She was estranged from her mom and she was living with her dad. And then after Penny was evicted from the brother-in-law's house, they had an arrangement where Penny was allowed to come and live in the house with them, but only if Zuzzie wasn't there or only if Zuzzie was asleep. Right? We heard that in the opening. So here's Zuzzie on direct.
And specifically on January 28th of 2020, how old were you?
18.
And what grade were you in school?
12th grade.
What is your mother's name?
Penelope McGee.
And in January of 2020, where was your mother living?
I'm not sure.
Did you live with her in the month of January?
No, I did not.
So were they able to keep it away from Zuzzie that the mom was actually living in the house, but only if Zuzzie was sleeping? Or like this girl didn't even realize that her mom was living in the house, and I want to show her some grace. I feel really bad for her, and I don't know what her beef is with her mom, but we can see it, right? And so they had some sort of estrangement, and I don't know why. I don't know if we're going to find out why, but that's basically the backstory here.
Now, drawing your attention specifically to January 28th of 2020, at some point during that day, did your mother come over to 40 Meadowbrook Road in Brookline?
Yes,
And do you know what time of day that was?
at night.
And can you tell the court what happened on January 28th of 2020 when your mother came to Meadowbrook Road in Brookline?
I was in my room, and it was a school night, and I heard yelling from downstairs.
Who did you hear yelling?
Well, at first I thought it was my dad and my brother Harry.
And what did you do when you heard the yelling?
I went downstairs to see what was going on.
And what did you see when you got downstairs?
That it was Penelope and my dad.
And when
Notice also she calls her mother by her first name, Penelope. Let's not the one thing that I don't allow in the chat is like disparaging witnesses' looks or, outfits, or their demeanor, their tone, whether they're lying or telling the truth is fine, but I don't like people making fun of witnesses' looks because, we're better than that. So please, let's not. Thank you. But she calls her mother by her first name. Penelope and my dad.
That it was Penelope and my dad.
And when you first saw them, where were they standing?
In the kitchen.
And what were they doing in the kitchen?
Yelling, fighting.
And where within the kitchen were they standing when you first saw them?
Towards the front hallway.
Did you hear what they were yelling about?
No, not exactly.
And how would you describe your mother's tone of voice at that time?
She sounded very upset and angry.
And what about your father?
He seemed more distressed.
And once you saw that they were in the kitchen and that it was your mother and your father, what did you do?
At first I tried to intervene and tell them to stop.
And did they stop when you said that?
No.
And how long did it go on that you were standing in the kitchen watching them fighting?
Maybe 5 minutes.
And then what did you do?
I went upstairs to get my phone.
And where was your phone?
In my bedroom.
And where was your brother Harry?
He was in his room.
Did you see your brother Harry?
Yes, I went to his room.
And what did you do?
I told him to stay in his room and to not come downstairs.
And when you grabbed your phone, what did you do?
I first texted and called my brother, Noah.
And after you did that, what did you do?
I started walking towards the stairs and dialed 911.
And were you connected to 911?
Yes.
And as you were connected to 911, what happened?
I went down the stairs and I told them that there was a domestic dispute happening. And by the time I came down the stairs, Penelope and my dad were in the front hallway.
Okay, she says she called 911 and said they were having a domestic dispute. She's 18 years old at the time. Does that sound like something an 18-year-old would say or would know to say? So I'm wondering, were there prior domestic disputes in this house? Had she had to call 911 before? I just find it a little bit curious.
And how close is that in relation to the stairs?
It's right there.
And what did you see them doing in the front hallway?
Screaming, yelling, and my dad's back was pushed against the closet.
And what?
Judge, if I may, if you look something.
Yes.
People are saying that she sounds coached. Okay, so we're not really getting.
All right, sidebar, quick break. We'll get more from the daughter here, some for the West Virginia, and this daughter McGee is mom.
When you got into the stairs and saw your parents the second time, what were they doing?
Still arguing. My dad was asking my mom to leave.
And what was your mom doing?
Yelling at him. And during that time, they kept moving towards the door. He was trying to tell her to leave, and she kept pushing back towards him.
And when you say pushing back towards him, what do you mean? What was she doing?
Shoving him.
And where was she shoving him?
His chest.
And what was she shoving him with?
Her hands.
And how many times did you see her shoving him?
Multiple, but I don't remember the exact number.
And besides shoving, did her hands touch him in any other way?
Yeah, his face.
And how did his hands touch her face? What was she doing?
She slapped him.
How many times did she slap him?
Once.
And where were they standing when the shoving and the slapping occurred?
In the front hallway.
And what was your father doing when your mother was shoving and slapping?
Asking her to leave. And he had his hands up, kind of in defense.
I don't know if you can hear it, but there's this terrible like background, like white noise happening while this is going on. Am I just overly sensitive to it? It's horrible.
Can you describe what was the tone of their voices while you were watching this shoving and slapping?
Penelope sounded very erratic.
And were you on the phone with 911 when you were observing this?
Yes.
And how did the pushing and the slapping end?
My father collapsed.
And where did he collapse?
Onto the floor in the front hallway.
And what did you do once that happened?
I started screaming and I told 911 to send an ambulance.
And what was your mother doing once your father collapsed?
I don't remember exactly in the moment that she was standing there.
And once he was on the ground, what did she do, if anything?
She just kind of stood there.
How long do you think it took for 911 to arrive, for the paramedics to arrive?
I'm not sure exactly about the paramedics, but it took the police about 5 or 6 minutes to arrive.
And during that time period, what did your mother do?
At first, I kept begging her to give him CPR, and she insisted that he didn't need it.
Did she give him CPR?
Yes, eventually.
How would you describe your mother's behavior that night, from the time that she arrived at the home to when your father collapsed?
Frantic, erratic, angry.
Ms. Savitz, I'm going to play exhibit number 1.
Okay, Philip DeBay, what do we think here? So daughter says, yes, gave CPR, but only after.
Sorry, I'm not a really fan of Philip Dubay, and we don't need to listen to that, so we're going to fast forward that a little bit. Thanks, you guys, for the breaking news, but if we could just refrain from breaking news in the chat, because if it's not related to Karen Reed or this case, what happens when you do that is that it directs people to go otherwhere, to leave here and go somewhere else to watch the breaking news. So we could just like refrain, please. Thank you so much.
Ex-husband Andrew Savitz. McGee has opted for a bench trial, meaning a judge, not just to 20 years in prison if convicted. The defendant and victim's daughter is on the stand. We're about to listen to the 911 call from that night. Let's go back into the courtroom.
See, they didn't think they wanted to cover this case, so they were covering it, in a haphazard way, just live with commercials and not doing all the testimony. And then Law and Crime was like, oh, it seems like people really want to watch this case, because I was listening to it on Zoom and it was audio only. So now Law and Crime is doing it. So Court TV, you missed out. Law and Crime will be there tomorrow doing it live and not cutting out important parts of testimony. Thank you, Law and Crime.
Play exhibit number 1.
All right, I'm just going to give you a blanket trigger warning on this. Trigger warning for the 911 call. See if I have one up. I do. It's scrolling at the bottom. This is Zuzzie's 911 call.
Yeah. What's that? Okay, hang on, what do you say before? Sarah, 40 minutes, what's yours, and I said, I'm going to come right now. Just get out of the way, I want you to say the phone to me, what do you mean? Stop! Why is it listening? Stop! Lizzie, stop! Lizzie! Does anyone have weapons there? What? Does anyone have weapons? No. What's going on? What's happening? Stop! Let it stop! Okay. Okay, what just happened? How do you handle it? What happened? Okay, is he doing it? Okay. Can you hear mom check for me, please? Okay. Izzy, I have help on the way, okay? I can go in and be confident, okay? Can you check and see if he's breathing? He's breathing. Okay? And this is paramedic Cannon, 40 medical blood, you can hand down. And this is paramedic Cannon, 50 medical blood. Down. This is an eye. Zero is anything at the time. Okay. Just look you down. Is he not somewhere, okay? How old are you? Okay. I understand I'm the way I promise, okay? I'm just saying. Okay. Okay, stay on the line. He is breathing, right? Is he talking to you? Stop breathing. Amy, I'm so away, okay? I'm gonna help you, okay? Your mom knows what you need her? There he is. Okay. Sit on the way, if your mom and your dad see you right now, and you're there's a lot of park on the way, okay? If you want to park over there, and just stay right now. Oh, you just got to house. Okay, open the front door, turn on the lights, so they know where they're going. Okay, and you're doing great. You're staying outside. You're doing great. I'm going to leave the door for me, okay? Okay. You tell me when they're upset with you, okay? Can you be that for me? Daniel is having to the police officers, Daniel is with them, okay? They won't know how to do CPR, so they're gonna come and help, okay? If you're doing great.
Ms. Savitz, is that your voice on that recording that we just heard?
Okay, so that's why she needs to authenticate the 911 tape because she's the one on the call, and it's always hard to hear 911 tapes. They're never good quality. You know, in Karen Reed, we're very lucky to have people like Microdots who enhance audio for us, and we get transcripts, and people are so into that case that we get a lot more information than the jurors do because they get that original 911 call and that's it. So hopefully they're going to clear up some of what we heard with their questioning. And remember, there's no jury here; it's just the judge. So there's that. People were asking if there's going to be a transcript of that 911 call. I have no idea. If there is, and you find one, absolutely send it to me, but not that I am aware of. So there's that.
Yes.
And is that the call that you made on January 28th of 2020?
Yes.
And when you were making that call, where were you standing?
In the front hallway.
And where was your dad when you were making that call?
On the floor.
And was he close to the stairs?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Savitz, I'm going to show you some photographs. Pointer.
Imagine this. They took crime scene photographs of the scene where the man died. The ADA's name is Jennifer Blair.
We're going to turn our attention to.
And that's it. That's all that they released on YouTube. So let me see if I can find the rest of her testimony somewhere because the cross was good. Hold on. Her name is Zuzzie Savitz. I think this is when I was listening on Zoom and I got audio only. Let me see if this Go Local Providence has it. All right, no, I think. Back to the Core TV website. So I'm gonna have to sit through a commercial. But hey, how's everybody? Talk amongst yourselves for a second. It sounded like it was just her on the 911 call, but it sounded like, and during cross, he's going to bring that out, where she says some things like, "Dad, stop." It's unfortunate that nobody can seem to stream that's in its entirety until starting tomorrow.
Died, who's the victim in this case.
And she's under cross-examination right now. She's being grilled about the interview she gave to police, and the defense says you changed your story and it's going to get intense. She's going to need to ask for a break. Let's take a look.
I don't remember.
Is it your testimony that when you met with the Commonwealth, along with your lawyer, Dan Conley, in August of 2024, and went over the statements you made to the police, that you said that to the Commonwealth in that meeting in August of 2024?
Okay, so she had a meeting with the DA's office in August of 2024 to go over her statement.
I don't remember.
And is it your testimony that when you met with the Commonwealth on January 22nd, I think that was by Zoom, not in the office, that when you went over your trial testimony and statements you made, that you said that?
I don't think that came up.
She pulled out a Jennifer McCabe. He's saying, you never said that that your mother was slurring, because that she did say under direct that her mother was slurring. And he's like, you never said that in your statement. You never said that anywhere until today, did you? And I think that's what he's talking about now. It's unfortunate that we can't watch the whole thing.
Did you go over your statements that you had made to police when you were in the office with Attorney Dan Conley on August 2024? Did you go over your statements?
No,
You did not?
not the actual statement.
When you had that Zoom meeting last week on January 22nd.
Zoom meeting. It says
Did you
tsunami.
go over your statements that you had made to the police?
No.
Prior to today, strike that. I withdraw the question. Prior to January 22nd of 2025, last week, you had never told anybody that your mother was slurring her words.
Right. Prior to last week, when she did her prep with the DA, she had never told anyone that her mother was slurring her words. The first time she said that was on direct examination, which we did not get to see because, court TV. And this is Larry Tipton, for those of you who are just joining. Hey, what's up? We're in Judge Beverly Cannone's courtroom again for a trial that is happening right now, today and tomorrow, and will not happen Friday because Karen Reed will be in that courtroom in front of Judge Beverly Cannone on Friday. But for the first time ever, she said her mother was slurring. And then she said, but nobody asked me that. And it's very similar to the Jennifer McCabe way of answering questions. Nobody asked me, so I didn't say it. I wonder if they prep all their witnesses over at the DA's office in the same way. Food for thought. Dan Connolly. Is Dan Connolly like the head guy in the DA's office that's like better than Lally. And he's the guy who said, I'm not touching that Karen Reed persecution. You're going to have to go out and hire somebody else like Hank Brennan. Is that the top dog over there, Dan Connolly? Let me know. Hi, Olivia.
Is that a question or a statement?
It's a question.
That's false.
When did you tell the police before January of 2025? I'm sorry. When did you tell the police before January 22nd of 2025 that your mother was slurring her words?
I had not talked to the police since they got a statement from me at Patricia Berenson's house.
So you never told the police when they asked you questions at 40 Meadowbrook on January 28th of 2020. You never told the police that your mother was slurring her words.
No.
And when you talked to the state police 3 hours later in Miss Harrison's house, you never told the police that your mother was slurring her words.
No, I had just found out my father died.
Can you guys hear her okay? I have earbuds in and my volume is up so I can hear it. But she says, no, I just found out my father died. And he says, well, did you tell the state police when 3 hours later, did you tell them that your mother was slurring her words? And she said, no. She said on the day in question, she was 17. So today she's 22.
But you never told them that your mother was slurring her words.
No, I had just found out that my father died.
So you want to keep adding that to the answer, not? We understand. But you never told them, right, about slurring your words.
No, again, my mind was on other things.
Well, you were asked a lot of questions, weren't you?
Yes, 3 hours after my dad died,
And you answered those questions, didn't you?
to the best of my ability at that moment.
And are you telling us that between the time you spoke to the police back on January 28th of 2020, you've never gone over all these statements that you made to the police with the district attorney?
I've never seen the statements that I made.
And you haven't gone over it?
How do you define go over them?
That you're asked, did you make this statement? The district attorney said, I'm going to have you read this report. I'm going to ask you if you made these statements. And you go over your statements.
No, they wouldn't let me look at the actual statement.
Interesting.
And what about at the end of the questioning by the state police at Miss Barrison's house? Did they go over the statements you had just given them and confirm that they were accurate?
I don't remember.
You told the state police while you were at Miss Barrison's house on January, I think now would be January 29th of 2020, in the early morning hours. You said that your, quote, mother was coherent. That's what you told them then, correct?
Again, I haven't gone over the statement, so I don't remember, so I can't confirm that.
I think the one who took her statement was Yuri Buchanan. I think. Because I listened to a lot more of this on Zoom than they're letting us watch on Court TV, but I think. So he didn't go over her statement with her then. He didn't ask her if it was accurate. That's interesting. She says. She also says that when she was getting prepped by the ADA of Norfolk County, they did not go over her statements with her and they wouldn't let her look at them. And all of a sudden, for the first time ever, she said on the stand her mother was slurring her words. Not that I don't even know that it even matters if she was or not, but it's interesting.
And you told the state police, and specific to Trooper Buchanan, you told him your mother was making sense.
Trooper Buchanan. You told Trooper Buchanan that your mother was making sense.
Again, I don't remember. I haven't read the statements or gone over them.
So have you told the government, I'm talking about Assistant District Attorney Blair or Assistant District Attorney McGee, have you told them that you don't remember all these statements that are in police reports?
Yes.
But when you were asked questions today by Assistant District Attorney Blair, you never once said, I don't remember.
I don't know.
You need to take a break?
No.
He said, "Do you need to take a break?" And she said, "No." She looks wrecked, like she does need to take a break. My heart breaks for her. I can't even imagine what she's going through. Clearly, she was estranged from her mother for whatever reason we don't know. I think her mother's going to have to testify because she's claiming self-defense. And this, even though it's a bench trial, and I think that she really loved her dad. And I don't know if she wants to blame someone and she wants to blame her mom for it, but it's really, really heartbreaking. And then to Judge Cannone's credit, she says, "You know what, Miss Savitz, we're going to take a break. I want to take a break." And like doesn't put the decision on her to take a break. And this is very difficult for her, and understandably. And look at Judge Cannone showing a little bit of grace and compassion. And I think that was the right move. Oh, breaks my heart. Breaks my heart.
Okay, the witness, the daughter, having some trouble there, walking out of the courtroom, and there's mom. Oh, this is just heartbreaking to imagine what's going through her mind right now. Her daughter, obviously convinced that if mom didn't come over and throw a fit, dad would still be alive. It is a complicated web. And
yeah, but what she didn't know was that the mother was actually living there, but she was only allowed in if Zuzzie was asleep or in a room. So this is a very, very complicated relationship. Somebody just brought up parental alienation. That is a real thing. They had been divorced, I think, for 6 years, but they were still raising 3 kids together. And Penny had been evicted from the house that was owned by her brother-in-laws.
You know?
Yeah, it's mom's attorney who's having to grill her on her statements and why she didn't tell police initially.
All right, well, we can fast forward through this a little bit. Because they're
Skating for over 45 years has taken a toll
Tony
on my body.
Hawk again.
I take Cannone turmeric because it helps with healthy joints.
Tony Hawk again, you guys. Kate says, does she even need self-defense as a defense? No, I don't think so. She could just say causation. There's no causation between anything I did and his death. But her story is going to be that he was pulling her by the hair and dragging her by the hair and beating the bejesus out of her. So it's going to be interesting because even based on Zuzzie's testimony that we've heard so far, she did keep going upstairs. She went upstairs to tell her brother to stay in his room. She went upstairs to get her phone. She went upstairs to do something else. She went and texted her other brother. So she didn't see everything that happened down there. And that's going to come in more when we see the detective's testimony that testified today. There were 2 detectives that testified today, which we'll watch after this. Oh, for the love of the traveling man. Anybody know a hack for getting through these commercials? No, no, no. They don't make it easy. They want you to subscribe to Court TV. We're going to try.
Cannone, the
So
brand I trust.
frustrating.
Stan, and we've been watching this play out all morning. It's been fascinating. You've got the daughter of the defendant, but also the daughter of the individual that died, who was the victim in this case.
And she's under cross-examination right now. She's being grilled about the interview she gave to police, and the defense says you changed your story, and it's going to get intense. She's going to need to ask for a break. Let's take a look.
Well, that's what we were up to, was the break. So can we get to the break?
I don't remember.
Skating for over 45 years.
No,
has
we just
taken
get
a toll
Tony
on my
Hawk. This
body.
is,
I
you
take
guys,
Cannone turmeric because it helps with healthy
don't
joints and
bother
inflammation
today
support.
because
Why Cannone? It has superior
probably going to
absorption
just get
compared
mad
to
that I'm
regular
even playing
turmeric.
this. How did she even get indicted? I have no
the
idea.
brand
This
I
is like a
trust.
ham sandwich. Exactly.
The only thing on the road faster
ham
than a
sandwich.
race car are rising car repair costs. But with endurance, you'll never pay
There's
for
no way
car
around this.
repairs
And you know
again.
what? I do pay for Court
Just
TV.
2 claims
but
saved
doesn't
us
matter.
over $1,700.
If I didn't have endurance, I would have paid over
Okay. Well, now I went to their website, which I don't want to do. All right. We're just going to have to let it play. And they got me again.
$7,000
We
out of pocket to
check
repair
on
my
this.
vehicle.
Not our fault.
So make the call. Find out how much you could save with endurance.
Call right now to get $300 off any plan. Call 1 now.
Maybe they know if I mute it and then they play another commercial.
Welcome back to Court TV Live, along with Julia Janae and Ted Rollins. We're heading back to Dedham, Massachusetts now for more of day one in the Socialite manslaughter trial for defendant Penny McGee.
And she's facing manslaughter charges tied to the death of her ex-husband, Andrew Savitz. This all happened back in 2020. And court documents reveal that the couple's then 18-year-old daughter, and we heard her on the stand talk about her eyewitness testimony, where she saw her mother slapping and pushing her father before he collapsed while she was on the phone.
Yeah, it's not ads on YouTube, Hazelnut. It's ads on Court TV's website.
Still listening to
put it on
cross-examination
YouTube.
of
Sorry.
the victim and the defendant's
That's what it
daughter.
is. Of course, I
Zuzzie
have premium
Savitz.
YouTube. I could never play anything for you if I didn't.
Can you rephrase it? I'm confused. Sorry.
You never saw your mother strike your father with a closed fist.
No, not that I remember.
And
Well, in the face.
excuse me?
In the face, she didn't strike him with a closed fist.
Okay. You never saw your mother use a closed fist.
I don't remember.
You told Officer Buchanan at Ms. Garrison's house you never saw your mother strike your father with closed fists.
I don't remember.
You never saw your mother arm herself with any kind of weapon.
No.
We saw some photographs of the house, and we saw a photograph of a chair with a hammer in it. Do you remember that photograph? Do
Yes.
you have any idea what that hammer was doing there?
No.
But that hammer was in a chair that is in that small back room, 40 middle, correct?
Yes.
There was a hammer on a chair in there because they had crime scene photographs. They actually took crime scene photographs. We didn't get to see them because Court TV is not publishing that part of the testimony.
And the hammer is in plain view, isn't it?
Yes.
But you never saw your mother handle that hammer for any other type of weapon.
No.
Thanks, sir.
You told us today that when you first heard yelling, you thought it was your father yelling at your brother Harry.
Yep, she said that.
I thought they were yelling at each other.
You've never told that to the police or to the district attorney, have you, before today?
I've told that to the district attorney
When did you do that?
when I recounted the events.
Was that in the meeting in August of 2024 or in the meeting in January 22nd of 2025?
In 2024.
When you're talking to the district attorney in August of 2024, and you make certain statements about what happened, did anybody from the district attorney's office at that time say anything like, you never said that before, or that's the first time you said that? Did anybody say anything like that?
I don't remember.
Turning your attention to January 28th of 2020, you're not sure where your mother stayed the night before, January 19th?
No, I'm not sure.
And, I'm sorry, January 27th. You do know that your mother was staying at Fort Meadows in the days leading up to January 28th of 2020, right?
Some days when I wasn't there.
Oh, she did know her mother could stay there when she wasn't there.
I assumed, but I'm not sure.
Okay. And is that because you're not sure because your father didn't tell you that your mother was staying in Meadowbrook?
No, he did tell me.
And was there some type of arrangement between you and your father that you wouldn't have to associate or run into your mother while she stayed at Fort Meadowbrook?
It wasn't a formal agreement. I just asked him to please tell me when she was there so I wouldn't go there.
Sure. And in fact, during this period of time, you weren't speaking to your mother, were you?
I was not.
Pardon?
I was not speaking to her.
And in fact, when you were asked that on January 29th at Ms. Harrison's house by the state police, you said, I can't even remember the last time I had a conversation with my mother. That's what you told the trooper.
Wow, she told the trooper she doesn't even remember the last time she had a conversation with her mother. This is so sad.
I don't remember, but that would be correct.
Okay, so you don't even remember the last conversation you had with your mother. Is that fair to say?
No.
Brookline.
Yes, it's fair to say I don't remember.
This was in Brookline, DB.
Ms. Savitz, you said you told us you were going to college in Miami, correct?
Yes.
And it's fair to say that your brother-in-laws are paying for your college tuition, correct?
Okay. There was a plane crash with a helicopter. Thank you. This is like the 15th time I've seen it in the chat. Thank you. If you want to go watch breaking news, please go watch it. Please go watch it. But please do not distract the viewers in my chat on my channel who want to watch this right now to go watch something somewhere else. Okay. Thank you. Apparently, an American Airlines plane hit a helicopter. I don't even know if it's true, but I've seen it in the chat 5 times and I've asked 5 times to please stop from breaking news. Please, mods. Thank you.
Yes.
And you're giving money to them, correct?
Yes.
And at some point, did you move up to Newport, Rhode Island during the summer months of 2024?
Yes.
Oh, summer's in Newport.
Were you aware of the fact that your mother was living in Newport, Rhode Island at the same time?
No.
Did you discover that she was living there when you moved up to Newport?
Yes.
And she never approached you and tried to talk to you, did she?
No, she did not.
And she never approached you and tried to talk to you about this case or anything like that, did she?
Not about this case, no.
And she was in possession of the family dog, right?
Correct.
Oh, she had the dog.
Was ill, correct?
Correct.
And you wanted to see that dog before the dog passed away, correct?
Correct.
And so your mother made arrangements with a person living at the same place to have you come over and look at see the dog, and she left. You didn't encounter your mother, correct?
Correct.
You and me both.
When you described all these photographs in the inside of the house of 40 Meadowbrook, it's fair to say, isn't it, that you walk in the front door to the house, correct? Correct?
Yes.
And then as you look to the right, you see the living room area, correct?
Correct.
And in the living room area, there's two couches and they're formed in an L shape, correct?
Correct.
And you never saw your mother or father in the living room area on the evening.
The defense is
come
really
on, man.
grilling this daughter, especially about the relationship she had with her mother, where she said she doesn't even remember the last conversation she had with her mother.
Yeah, we
before
want to know
this
too.
incident. We're going to get you back in for more. We have to hit the pause button, but you won't miss a minute of the Socialite manslaughter trial.
Yeah, you lie because you come back and then they're already like in the middle of their testimony.
The only thing on the road
That's what you
faster
do. And
than
then
a
you make
race
me
car
watch
are
more
rising
Danica
car
Patrick
repair
and Tony Hawk. Miss Stianetti wants to know everything about Zuzzie. Everything about Zuzzie. All of it. Well, I guess I'm going to have to suffer through these commercials because there's no other way. Do, 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 do. Patty says, Court TV, and the commentary is stuck in poo-poo. There's no other way to watch this because they didn't post it on YouTube. So we have to go on their channel. Then we have to watch their video that they posted on their channel. I mean, on their website. And then we have to watch their commercials. Even though we pay for YouTube Premium, there is that. We don't know why there's a beef between the mother and the dad. And we don't know. I mean, the mother, the daughter and the mom. And then every time it goes back to live, it kicks back to the commercials again because they have the worst website on the face of the earth with the pop-ups. We don't know. We don't know what the beef is. I don't know if he's going to be allowed to get into it. But you know what? There's no jury. It's only the judge. So why wouldn't they be able to let Ed to get into it? I don't know. And tell the truth is moms have the rules and dads are more relaxed. Teenage issues with mom, moving with dad, less rules. Got it. Typical teenage girl. Agreed. Perhaps. No.
Are making some really weird noises.
If your check
Oh my
engine
God,
light
you
comes on
guys.
tomorrow, the repair could easily cost thousands.
Here's that transmission.
But with Endurance, you could never pay out of pocket.
I don't know if
for a
there's a worse
costly
website than
repair
this.
Again,
They covered a $14,000 engine replacement.
$1,400. Endurance paid it.
who's going to pay for your next car repair?
But this is what they're
You
doing now. They're not
or
posting their
Endurance?
stuff on YouTube
Call right
because
now
they
to get
want everyone to
$300
subscribe to
off
their
any
channel.
plan. Call now.
This play out all morning has been fascinating. You've got the daughter of the defendant.
Again,
The only thing on the road
we're
faster
here.
than a
I
race
don't- guys, I
car
don't know what to do
are
about this. This
rising
is not
car
working
repair
out.
costs. But with Endurance, you'll never pay for covered car repairs again.
Just two
Well,
claims.
here's the
saved
bottom
us
line.
Over $1,700.
She says that she changed her story. She added some stuff to the story. And what we're going to have to do instead, because Court TV sucks, is we're going to have to go to today's testimony. And if we can find some fresh Zuzzie testimony, if anybody ever publishes it, take my word for it when I tell you that she started adding stuff to her testimony. It's clear that she wants to blame someone for her father's death. And it seems pretty clear that she was estranged from her mom. And so therefore she wants to blame her dad. But Law and Crime has in its entirety today the testimony from two detectives. And so we are going to start with that. And then tomorrow they're coming back at 10 a.m. to live court. And if you're willing and you want to, we can come back and do that tomorrow morning at 10. So hang on, let's check out the testimony I should make my own commercial during theirs. You're right. But then the thing is, if you don't sit through them, it jumps. I don't know. It's really wonky, and I'm not a fan. But a fan. Wait, maybe we'll see the fan. There's the fan. One of the fans. Oh, there it is, everyone. Only fans all the time. There it is. Anybody miss the fan? Different view of the fan, though. Different angle, I gotta say. Different camera person, perhaps. Different angle. All right, let's say. Oh, maybe we'll get some judicial argument. This is from this morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jennifer Blair for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Ms. Blair.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Ms. McGee. Good morning, Ms. Crawford.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Ms. Crawford. She just said Ms. Crawford. I'm going to see if they're able to find the mics. If they're not, I'm going to turn my own down so you can turn yours up. But she just said Ms. Crawford. Did you hear it? Listen.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jennifer Blair for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Ms. Blair.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Ms. McGee. Good morning, Ms. Crawford.
Ms. Crawford.
Good morning, Mr. Tipton. Good morning, Ms. McGee. Good morning, Your Honor. All right. Do you have objections you want me?
Something funny, Ms. McGee. Something funny, Ms. McGee. See how the Ms. McGee, Penny, the defendant, took the microphone and said, "Good morning, Your Honor." She wasn't as mean as she was to Ms. Reed.
You can type out, or is there anything you can do to type out?
If you're referring to the statements, not at this time. I ordered the.
You're going to have to rely on the captions for a minute. Sorry.
I ordered the FDR tape because as I started.
Thank you, Kat Randall, for gifting a membership.
My notes were not as clear as I wanted them to be, so I did not want to mix up the exact.
Okay.
I hope to be able to. It hasn't been approved yet, but hopefully I'll get that today, and I'll be able to work on it.
Oh, Kat gifted 2 memberships. Thank you, Kat, and welcome 2 new members.
Second thing, I don't want to interrupt you, but the second thing I told you this was that there was a violation of sequestration by my expert.
Oh, a violation of sequestration. He's saying something about the jurors. Hold on.
My fault. I sent her a text on Monday, and the text says you are released from the sequestration order and can watch after you do its testimony. She interpreted that.
Hi, Teresa.
She could watch the trial. That is basically.
Where's Jim?
What she has been experiencing in other trials. So she watched approximately an hour of Ms. Savage's testimony. I need to report that to the court.
Somebody watched an hour of the trial, and they brought it to his attention. Thanks, Teresa. Says, "Where's Jim?" I think Jim's there somewhere, but we know Ms. Crawford is there.
That's about to the court, or is it a violation?
What is the Commonwealth?
I can start with certainly the notice of expert that we've received. We haven't received a report or anything like that. I don't think that for viewing Ms. Savitz's testimony would change or one way or the other what we anticipate that expert would testify to. So I appreciate the candor of Mr. Tipton. It wasn't our sequestration motion to begin with. This was an agreement that we would allow the experts to watch each other.
So it seems like an expert watched part of Zuzzie's testimony. That's what it sounds like. Blah blah blah. We're gonna get to the witness. Hang on. Oh, is that Jim? There's Jim. There's Jim.
I'm sure Mr. Tipton will question her about when she saw her. Right? You have no intention to. Okay. All right. So think about if there's anything else that you want to raise as a result of it, just let me know. All right. Okay.
Yeah, they can. They usually can watch testimony.
The Commonwealth calls Officer Daniel Yanez.
Jim. All right, if he can't find the mic, then I'm going to turn my volume down so we can turn up the master volume. But now it's getting louder. I can hear it. Yep, that's why I wanted to watch this. One of the reasons, anyway. Hills. Funny to watch Bev on another case. Totally different person. This clerk Jim swearing in the witness.
Good morning.
Morning.
Could you please state your name?
Daniel Yanez,
And by whom are you employed?
town of Brookline.
Could you please spell your last name for me, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. Yanez.
And what is your position with the town of Brookline?
I'm a patrol officer
And how long have you been a patrol officer in the town of Brookline?
for 23 years.
Okay, the volume is kind of stinky, so I turned my volume down. So tell me now if it's modulated so that it's even so you can turn it up on your end. So listen to me.
As a patrol officer, what do your duties include?
Listen to her, listen to me. Is that better? So you can turn it up? Let me know.
My duties are to protect and serve within the rules and regulations and policies of the town of Brookline and the Brookline Police.
Were you working on January 28th of 2020?
Yes.
And what did your duties include on that day?
My duty on that evening, I was assigned to the 547 unit.
And what did you do on the 547 unit?
On that particular evening, I was dispatched to 40 Middlebrook Road for a domestic altercation.
And when you got there, what did you see?
Upon my arrival, as I was stepping out of the vehicle, a young lady was outside of the house, later identified as Zuzzie. She ran towards me. She said that she needed help. She said her father was not breathing. I had asked her if there were any weapons. And then from that point, I went with her into the house.
And where in the house did you go?
As I stepped into the house, at the time when I stepped in, there was a person laying down on the hallway floor, later identified as Andrew.
And what entrance of the house did you go into?
The front door, sorry.
And where was Andrew laying when you got in?
He was laying on his back. And then when I saw him, I went immediately towards him. At the time, I went onto the radio. I requested for a Fallon ambulance.
I'm sorry, what condition was Andrew in?
It appeared like as if he was not breathing. And then when I started CPR, I noticed that he was gargling and slightly breathing. As I was checking for his pulse, he had a slight pulse. During that time, officers were coming into the house. I was passed an ambu bag, and as I was about to give him breath, he did breathe into the ambu bag. And then at that point, I realized he did have a slight pulse, and he was breathing. I placed him into the recovery position from that point.
Can you explain for the court what is an ambu bag?
An ambu bag is a device which assists in breathing. It's a breathing apparatus.
And did you place that on him?
Yes.
And after that, what did you do?
Okay. Shortly right after, Brookline Fire and Fallon paramedics showed up on scene, and they took over Andrew. And then from that point, I joined Sergeant Tian and Detective Avila in interviewing Miss McGee.
And where was Miss McGee when you interviewed her?
Upon entering the house, from what I recall, she was standing beside him.
And was she there when you were trying to assist him, trying to assist Mr. Savitz with the ambu bag?
Well, I Upon entering, she was standing there. All I remember is just going towards Mr. Savitz. I believe she stepped off to the side into the living room area. And then I just had my full attention on Mr. Savitz from that point. I believe the officers who came in right after me, Sergeant Tian and Detective Avila, went towards her and started the process from there.
And at what point did you join Sergeant Tian and Detective Avila in speaking with Ms. McGee?
Shortly after, once Mr. Savitz was in the hands of Fallon Ambulance and the Brookline Fire paramedics.
And what did Ms. McGee say?
Did he say he was with Brookline PD? Do they have their own PD in Brookline? Does anybody know? I think he said Brookline PD.
She said at approximately 22:45 hours, she had come to the house to discuss with Mr. Savitz an email that she had received. And then at a certain point, the conversation had turned into a verbal altercation where he started to yell at her to ask her to leave the house. At some point, she stated that he had pushed her several times, to a point once pushing her up against the wall in the living room area, and then another time pushing her towards the kitchen room area, towards the kitchen table, which knocked down some plates and some other things off the table. And then from there, as they were moving around in the area, he had pushed her up against the refrigerator, and then heading towards the hallway, towards the front door, he had at some point grabbed her by the hair and also was pushing her during all that time, asking her to leave the house. After pushing her,
Grabbed her by the hair, pushing her up against the wall. She looks like she's almost reliving it in her head. Somebody said she looks mean. I think it's Botox, but sometimes that can have the effect of raising your eyebrows or making you have a certain expression, perhaps. But I feel like, to me, it's like she's reliving this in her head. I don't know. None of us were there, but this officer is reporting that she said that he was pushing her around, grabbing her by the hair, slamming her up against the wall.
up against the refrigerator and pulling her hair and pushing her towards the hallway. Is at that point where he had collapsed, and she stated that she started CPR on him.
She did CPR.
And where were you when Ms. McGee was giving this statement to you?
We were in the living room area.
And you had mentioned that Ms. McGee indicated that some items had broken in the kitchen. Did you observe anything broken in the kitchen?
Yes.
What did you observe?
Plates, broken plates, and there was some cans, some perishables, foods thrown around.
Now, were there any other officers on scene when you were speaking with Ms. McGee?
Yes, during that time, Officers Soderberg and Officer Russell, as they were entering, they went up to the second floor. The caller, the daughter, Zuzzie and her son and her brother, Harry, were upstairs on the second floor. And during that time, they had gone upstairs to interview them. Also, during that, the whole time, as we're going through the whole area, we asked everybody if anybody needed any medical attention. Everyone had refused any medical attention. Also during that time.
Did you ask Ms. McGee if she wanted medical attention?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She had refused.
Did you have an occasion to observe Ms. McGee when you?
Now remember, the judge is going to be deciding this case. There's no jury. This is a bench trial. Think she's taking notes on his testimony? Do you think she's paying attention, or do you think she's making on her shopping list? I don't know, but it's interesting because usually this is the first time I think I've ever covered a bench trial with you on this channel, which has only been here for a year and a half. Oh, the email was about her being evicted. It was an eviction. So she went over there to talk to him about it because she lived in a house that was owned by his brother's trust, and they wanted to sell the house and they evicted her. So if you weren't here earlier, go back and rewatch. There's some testimony to that we watched about the eviction. She's writing denied to the defense.
You were talking to her?
Yes.
Did you observe any injuries to Ms. McGee?
No, I didn't.
That's the thing about domestic injuries. A lot of times, perpetrators of DV know how to not leave a mark. Am I right?
Now, where were officers Soderbergh and Russell when they were speaking to the children?
They were upstairs on the second floor in their bedrooms, I believe.
And did you speak to the children?
I did not.
And did anybody take photographs?
Yes.
Who?
Sergeant Tian.
Photographs at a crime scene? What?
At some point, did somebody arrive to
hang on a
take?
second, because it wasn't really even a crime scene, right? Because he died of a heart attack, but they're treating it like a domestic, and they're taking photographs. Remember, Karen Reed, the John O'Keefe case was originally called in as a domestic. You know who testified to that? Yuri Buchanan. Still no photos.
Take the children.
Yes.
Who was that?
Patricia Burnson.
And where did Ms. McGee go?
Well, during all this time, she was in our presence in the house.
And
11,
what happened
It's
to
11:11 right now, Eastern. Make a wish. Say a prayer for John O'Keefe.
Where did Mr. Savitz go?
He was placed in a Fallon ambulance, and then he was transported to the Beth Israel Hospital.
And at some point, did Ms. McGee go to the Brookline police station?
Yes.
And how did she get there?
I believe Detective Kelleher and Avila had transported her to the Brookline police station.
Okay, Kelleher. Well, no. Kelleher, who lived across the street diagonally from 34 Fairview, was Kelleher. He was with Canton PD, right? So he wouldn't be the guy they're talking about. Wait, hold on. Would he? Is there another Kelleher?
Station?
Yes.
And how did she get there?
I believe Detective Kelleher and Avila had transported her to the Brookline police station.
That's right. Iceman. This is Judge Bench Trial happening today and tomorrow.
At any point, did you make any observations of anything outside the house?
Yes, we observed what we believe was Mrs. McGee's vehicle, which was an Audi, black Audi vehicle.
And at some point, did somebody take photographs of that vehicle?
Yes, Sergeant T.
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. They took photographs of Penny McGee's vehicle, an Audi that was outside on the street. That had nothing to do with the death of her ex-husband, Andrew Savitz. The car was not involved in any way, shape, or form, but they were taking pictures of her car. Is anybody else shocked by that? Because when there's a murder weapon that's a car, 2 years later, on the exact same day, horrifically, they're not taking pictures of the car that they say is the murder weapon. Can you believe it? Yeah, they're taking pictures of the car. The car is not in any way involved in this. I don't know why they're taking pictures of the car. Maybe he's going to tell us. Apparently, they do know how to do this stuff, Mary. That's right.
Yeah.
And did anybody else take photographs of that vehicle?
Not that I don't remember. Sorry.
Can you just tell me, officer?
Yes.
Do you have any?
And he was found inside the house. That's right, in the foyer. Thank you, KPT. Foyer.
What kind of training do you have, medical training as far as being a first responder?
Well, every year we're always every year first aid, basic first aid training every year. We have to do training every single year for the last 23 years.
And are you trained in CPR?
Yes.
Every year for the last 23 years, he gets trained in CPR. You know who else was probably trained in CPR? Brian Albert. You know who didn't come out of his house to try and do CPR on the dead Boston police officer who was probably not even dead yet? Brian Albert.
Thank you, officer. I have no further questions.
Morning. So you wrote a 3-page report, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Do you have that report with you today?
Not with me.
Okay. Did you review it in advance of your testimony here today?
I did.
And when you reviewed it, you found it to be accurate as far as your memory that you recall, correct?
I'm sorry that he can't find the mic here, but listen to his questioning. This is the way it's done. I like this lawyer a lot. A lot of people don't like the fact that he's pacing around. You know what I love about him? He has no notes. He's not reading a script. He's just, it's in his head. He's going with the flow. And he's gonna compliment the police officer about how you do it at, you made a report, right? It was 3 pages, right? Did you bring it? No. In your report, you want to be as accurate as possible, right? And he's gonna build him up about what a great police officer he is. Thank you, Juan Yogi, for thanking me for keeping it real. He's also, this attorney, Larry Tipton, is also going to be representing Brian Walsh. This is very interesting. It's also very interesting to see how Judge Cannone acts around other defense attorneys that are not Alan Jackson.
Yes, sir.
And have you prepared for this trial by speaking with the district attorneys in anticipation of trial?
Yes.
Okay. And have you gone over your statements in your report?
Yes.
Okay. What I mean is, have you gone over the statements with the prosecutors in preparing for trial?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't find anything, nothing came up that seemed inconsistent within your report where you had to change anything like that?
No.
When you write these reports, officer, it's fair to say that you know that they're going to be reviewed by your supervisor, correct?
Yes.
So you make every effort to be as accurate and complete as you can be, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned that an Officer Russell was also present.
Correct.
And Soderbergh.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen any reports written by Officer Russell regarding this particular incident?
No.
Okay. And I do note that, tell me if I'm correct, that in your report, there is specific reference to the interview that was conducted upstairs of Miss Savitz, Zuzzie Savitz, and making note that Harry, her younger brother, was upstairs also, correct?
Correct.
And when you included that section in your report, is it fair to say that you got that information from talking specifically to Officer Russell, correct?
Yes.
And you tried to be as accurate as you could about what Officer Russell was telling you that Ms. Savitz had told him.
Yes.
And you relied on what Officer Russell told you, including what Zuzzie Savitz said to him in your report. You relied on what he was representing, correct?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that after you included that in your report, would it be fair to say that then your report was reviewed by a supervisor?
Yes.
And do you have any idea if Officer Russell reviewed your report as to what he had told you?
Not at that time, no.
Okay, but is it common practice of the Brookline Police Department that when you include specific statements made to you by your fellow officers and you're including them in the report, that those officers can look at your report and make sure that what you included is accurate?
Correct.
And that's just common procedure within the Brookline Police Department, correct?
Yes.
So you wrote your report that included that information. You wrote your report shortly after the incident, correct?
Within a few hours after.
Okay, and that's
Wow, he wrote his report within a few hours of the incident. Remember when Proctor wrote some of his reports of the witness statements that he took? Sometimes they were weeks later, sometimes they were months later.
also Brookline Police Department procedure, correct?
Yes.
That you write the report and include details and facts close in time to try to ensure that they're accurate and complete, correct?
Correct.
And so it's fair to say, as you sit here today under oath, that what you put in your report that Zuzzie Savitz told Officer Russell and Sonnenberg is accurate and complete.
Yes, sir.
And
All right. If you're having trouble hearing him, I'm sorry. We already modulated it once, but he's going to now have this officer testify about what he wrote in his report about what Zuzzie said to him, which is going to be different from what Zuzzie said on the stand.
it's fair to say, isn't it, that nowhere in your report, and I want to focus you on just what Officer Russell and Sonnenberg told you about what Zuzzie told them, that she never said anything that she first heard yelling and thought it was her dad yelling at her younger brother, Harry. She never told me. That's not what you were told by Russell or Sonnenberg, correct?
That is not in the report.
Okay. And
Okay, it's not in the report that Zuzzie said she thought it was her father arguing with Harry. She didn't tell any police officers that.
there's nothing in your report from Officers Russell and Sonnenberg that Zuzzie told them that she went down and went into the kitchen area while the argument was going on. No?
No.
And that when she was standing in the kitchen area, she saw her mother and father yelling and fighting. That's not in your report.
No, sir.
And that
It's not in the report that she ever came down and saw them fighting in the kitchen.
would indicate that they didn't tell you that because you're trying to be accurate and complete, correct?
Yes, sir.
And there's nothing in the report where Zuzzie tells those officers that her father seemed to be in distress while he was arguing. Nothing like that.
No, sir.
There was nothing in the report that Zuzzie had told those officers that she had talked to her brother, Harry, and told him to stay in the room and not come downstairs. Nothing like that, correct?
No, sir.
In fact, the statement that's included is that Harry was asleep in his room while this was going on.
Correct.
Pretty much everything she said on the stand, she did not tell police at the scene. This is interesting. She didn't say that she went and told Harry to stay in his room. She told them that Harry was sleeping.
Your report also includes a statement that she said that she witnessed her mother slapping her father in the face and chest. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
But there's nothing in your report that indicates at any time that Zuzzie Savitz said anything that she saw her mother and father pushing and shoving. That's not in your report, is it?
Not from her point of view. Not
Oh.
from her statement.
Wow. It's not in the report either that Zuzzie saw them pushing and shoving. Joan says the daughter is key. Miss Jessica, I have a Dyson. Yes, I do. Oh, yes, I do. Thanks for noticing. Worth every penny. It's life-changing.
Her statement, correct. And there's nothing in your report that says Zuzzie reported that her mother was slurring her words, is it?
No, sir.
Or that she was stumbling?
No, sir.
Slurring and stumbling. Nope, didn't say that either. Come on, Lori, what do you think I do? Some two-bit amateur operation? Of course I'm still here. We got to catch up before tomorrow's trial.
There's nothing in your report about what Zuzzie that Zuzzie would have said that her mother refused initially to give CPR to her father after he collapsed.
Oh, we just heard her
She said,
testify that her mother refused to give her CPR and she had to keep bugging her to do the CPR. And then she finally did. Thank you, Kay Schmidt, for the 10. Says, I'm sorry this is happening, but thanks for stumbling on this case and sharing it. Thank you for your 10. And Teresa, I think we addressed this. Says, where's Jim? Thanks for your 5. We saw Jim. Jim's here. Pretty much everything Zuzzie said on the stand is different from what she told the police, contemporaneous with the events.
that her mother said he doesn't need CPR, correct?
Correct.
In fact, your understanding is that once Mr. Savitz collapsed, that Ms. McGee immediately began administering CPR.
That was her statement.
That was Zuzzie's statement, correct?
No, Mrs. McGee.
Okay, that was Ms. McGee's statement.
Michael, that's because there's no jury. But yeah, not once has she said, do you want to object to that, Ms. Nallally?
Officer, it's fair to say that when you first arrived, and then other officers again continued to arrive, it was a pretty chaotic scene.
Yes.
And is it fair to say that when you respond to a scene like this, and you have someone lying on the floor and you don't know if they're breathing or dying, people are, and forgive me, but people are kind of barking out orders and yelling and trying to get things done, correct? As they try to help whoever needs help, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's fair to say then that this interview you conducted of Ms. McGee, is it correct to say that it happened while all of this chaos was going on in the hallway?
No.
Okay, can you explain what happened?
For my part, where I intervened into the interview with Ms. McGee, with Sergeant Tian and Detective Avila once Brookline Fire and Family Ambulance paramedics took over Ms. body. Once they were good, I stepped away and then I turned my attention to Ms. McGee, who's far off into the living room area. And that's when we commenced with the interview process with Ms. McGee.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that. And
This is so interesting because James Lynch says Boston media has totally ignored this case. Why do you think that is? When I started covering the Turk case with you, Dr. Turk's case, which is also in Norfolk County, which is out of Dover, people were telling me, people were reaching out to me, send me emails. I live in Dover. What happens in Dover stays in Dover. They don't want this in the news. I live in Massachusetts, never heard of this case, didn't even know Dover was in Norfolk County. Same thing with the Brian Camp case. The Brian Camp case got zero coverage in the area. Tell me why you think that is.
Fair to say that I shouldn't have put it the way I did. The fact is that other first responders from both Brookline Fire Department and Fallon Hospital, they were still administering life-saving efforts to Mr. Savitz on the ground while you were talking, asking questions of Ms. McGee, correct?
Yes.
And Ms. McGee didn't resist talking to you, did she?
No.
And you were the one asking the, I withdraw the question. Were you the one asking the question?
Yes.
And it's fair to say that you were the one that was kind of controlling the questioning. You would ask a question, hear an answer, and then ask the next question, right?
Well, collectively, myself with Sergeant Tian and with Detective Avila.
Okay, so is it our understanding then that not just yourself, but the other two officers were also asking Ms. McGee questions?
Yes.
So collectively, you all three were kind of controlling the questioning. You were in control. You were asking the questions, you'd get an answer, and then you would ask what question you thought needed to be asked next.
Correct.
And in no time did Ms. McGee tell you, stop, I don't want to answer any more of your questions, correct?
Correct.
And it's fair to say that when you were asking her questions, she was upset.
Yes.
She appeared very anxious.
Yes.
Okay. And when you told us, and when you say that she was in the living room, it's fair to say that that's really only maybe 12 to 15 feet away from the body where Mr. Savitz was lying in the hallway, correct?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us, officer, if Mr. Savitz's body, to the best of your memory, were his feet closer to the front door, or was his head closer to the front door?
Feet were closer to the front door.
And do you recall a stairway in that hallway?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall seeing a pair of glasses on the landing?
I do not.
Okay. And is it fair to say that, to the best of your memory, Mr. Savitz's body, as he lay in the hallway, he was very close to the front door?
Yes.
When you were asking this, you and your other officers, Avila and Tian, were asking Ms. McGee questions, there was no reason in your mind not to ask her questions, correct? I mean, she didn't look injured, correct?
Correct.
She was answering your questions cogently, correct?
Correct.
She didn't seem confused, did she?
No.
And she was, is it fair to say, to characterize it, that, you know, when you would ask her a question, she would respond coherently to what your question asked?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't have any reason to stop questioning and say, you know, maybe we should stop this because you don't seem okay to us. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but there was none of that going on. You simply asked the questions, as many as you wanted, and that was the end of it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall hearing Ms. McGee say something to the effect of, I want to go to the hospital with my ex-husband, or words to that effect?
I do not recall that.
And your testimony on that particular question isn't that she did not say that, you just don't recall that, you sit here today.
Correct.
I don't know why this was delayed, Libra, for 5 years. I don't know. Yeah, they're talking about the slurring because you're going to see that they're going to find some wine bottles in her car. But if this guy's interviewing her and he's up close, he would smell alcohol on her breath. So remember, Zuzzie just said for the first time on the stand that her mother was slurring and stumbling. All right, a little sidebar. Oh, let's see if we recognize anybody. See, the courtroom's empty. Anybody who wants to go sit in on this trial can go tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you want to, because even though it's in a little tiny courtroom, nobody's there. Nobody in Massachusetts is watching this unless you're sitting here with me, or maybe you're one of the 200 people that was on Law and Crime today. Penny's facing 20 years in prison because her ex-husband died of a heart attack after they had an argument. And he had a lot of medical conditions, including 90% occluded artery to one of his heart arteries, and hypertension, diabetes, had been in 2 major car accidents, had dementia. They had an argument. We don't know who hit who or pulled who by the hair, but he had a heart attack and died. She's on trial for manslaughter, facing up to 20 years. Yeah, the hissing is a lot. All right, here we go. Is this redirect? Hold on. It's like they put the white noise machine on so the people in the audience can't hear because there's no jury. Yes, somebody making a cappuccino. There's literally 4 people on the victim side, and we can't see how many people. There's no media. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 people behind the defendant. That's it. Oh, I sped her up a little bit so she's.
So Yanez, did you have an opportunity to observe Ms. McGee's car?
Yes.
Here we go.
And where was the car?
The vehicle's parked out in front of 40 Meadowbrook Road. It's parked out in front of 40 Meadowbrook Road.
And how was the car parked?
It's parked in front of out in front of the driveway, outside the curb, about 4 feet off of the driveway.
4 feet off
The driveway, yes.
the driveway. And did you have occasion to observe anything that was inside Ms. McGee's car?
Yes.
What did you see inside Ms. McGee's car?
Oh, yes, he had a
there was
stroke.
brown bag. There was
You're right. He also had a stroke recently. Thank you, Susie Q. I forgot to say that. Okay. There's a brown bag in the car.
Can I look over the report? 'Cause
Is your memory exhausted
sorry.
as to what you saw inside of Ms. McGee's car?
Yes, sorry.
Is your memory exhausted? This is another thing they do at the Norfolk County DA's office. Remember? Is your memory exhausted? And then at one point, I think during the Karen Reed trial, Yuri Buchanan said, my memory is exhausted. Can you show me the report? They prep every witness the same way. And this is what she's going to start to do. The same thing that Lally did. And now that I pointed out to you, it's going to bug the crap out of you too, I think. After he answers the question, she repeats his answer in her next question. It is so annoying and it wastes so much time.
Would looking at your report refresh your memory?
Yes.
Your Honor, may the witness refresh his memory.
Sure, I obviously he didn't have his report. Do you have your report with you?
Not in hand.
I have a copy, yes.
Sorry.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Thanks, KPT. You beat me to it.
Officer Yanez, if you could please take a look at your report and look up when you're done.
Everybody smash the like button before I have to shut off the heat. Thank you. So far, no what if anything, Carrie, but is your memory exhausted?
Officer Yanez, what did you see inside of Ms. McGee's car?
There was a bottle of wine, and there was also 2 water bottles in the front dash, also with her cell phone with the charger on the passenger side.
And the cell phone and the charger, was that laying on top of anything?
I believe it was on the passenger side.
Thank you, officer.
Okay.
Okay, there was a bottle of wine. Was it open?
Thank you, Officer Yanez. You're all set.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth calls Trooper Ryan Hodgson.
All right, another trooper. Wine in the car. I mean, thank you. Yeah, we got 1,200 likes with 1,700 watching. That's a pretty good ratio, but we can do better. You guys, we can do better. I know we can. All right, this is the final witness of the day because, of course, today was a half a day in Bev's courtroom. It was a 2-hour day. But in her defense, she did have a full calendar because apparently she's only one of 2 judges hearing criminal cases in Norfolk Superior. So this is the last witness of the day. It's Jim, Clerk Jim. Where's Madam Court Reporter?
Good morning. Could you please state your name?
Ryan Hodgson,
And by whom are you employed?
Massachusetts State Police,
And what is your position with the Massachusetts State Police?
Sergeant in Crime Scene Services.
And as a sergeant in crime scene services, what do your duties include?
Listen
I'm
up.
a supervisor for the Boston location, and we respond with and assist local, state, and federal agencies with the processing of crime scenes and the collection and processing of evidence for latent fingerprints and impression evidence.
Oh, you mean there's a whole crime scene services team that is supposed to come to crime scenes to collect the evidence in the Massachusetts State Police? What? They actually have a special division, crime scene services, that's supposed to come and collect the evidence. Did you guys know that? Did you know? Yeah, it's not the CERT team that's supposed to come. Not the CERT team. No, it's the crime. What do you call it? Crime services, crime scene services. And this is in 2020. Okay? It exists. Let's just listen to that again because I'm blown away by it. Here's what they do. Here's what they're called. And here's what they do. Crime scene services.
Whom are you employed?
Massachusetts State Police,
And what is your position with the Massachusetts State Police?
Sergeant in Crime Scene Services.
And as a sergeant in crime scene services, what do your duties include?
I'm a supervisor for the Boston location, and we respond with and assist local, state, and federal agencies with the processing of crime scenes and the collection and processing of evidence for latent fingerprints and impression evidence.
That's insane.
At some point, were you working on January 28th of 2020?
Yes,
And were you called to respond at any point to 40 Meadowbrook Road in Brookline?
yes,
And what time were you called to respond there?
approximately 1 a.m.
And when you got there, what did you do?
I took digital photographs of a house and a vehicle.
Digital
house and a
photographs
vehicle?
of the house and a vehicle? But wait a second, Sergeant of Crime Scene Services. The vehicle wasn't even involved in this at all. Why were you taking photographs of a vehicle? I'm so confused. You mean you have cameras? How many photos did you take? I'm gonna have to get a drink. More Gatorade.
Yes,
And with regards to the vehicle, did you learn whose vehicle that was?
yes, I did.
Whose vehicle was it?
Miss Penelope McGee,
And what kind of a vehicle was it?
an Audi convertible coupe.
And when you respond from crime scene services to document a scene, can you explain for the court what that means?
Yes, please
Means
tell
just,
us.
taking photographs or digital video as requested by the agency that you're responding to assist.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
What? You mean in Brookline they know how to investigate crimes? I can't even. Video too?
Trooper, I'm handing you what's been pre-marked as for identification, exhibits A through K. Could you please take a look at those photos and look up when you're done?
Mhm. Look how many photographs there are. He's still flipping through them. That's a lot.
Do you recognize those photos?
Yes,
Are those the photos that you took at approximately 1 a.m. on January 29th, 2020 in Brookline at 40 Meadowbrook Road?
yes.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth would move to introduce A through K for identification as the next exhibits.
I do my same objection.
All right, so I'm admitting them for the same purpose.
Ms. Crawford. Colleen Crawford is in the room. This is wild. So you guys were Massachusetts locals. Why is there no court reporter? So I see Clerk Jim here in front of Judge. Then to the right of your screen is this woman who I believe is Miss Crawford. She's running all of the exhibits. Although she doesn't look like the Ms. Crawford that I looked up on LinkedIn, but could there be another Ms. Crawford that is in charge of like running tech for Norfolk County DA's? I don't know. Nepotism? Where's the court reporter? So confused. Oh, Will is here. Will, we're like you. We're like you doing a late night. But we're in Judge Bev's courtroom, so, you know, we're here for it. We got to catch up before tomorrow, before she starts tomorrow's trial at 10 a.m. because today was only a half a day.
Ms. Crawford, could we please see number 85?
Ms. Crawford. Will, I think it's
I'm
Colleen
showing you
Crawford.
what's been,
I think it's Colleen Crawford running the exhibits in the courtroom. I'm not even joking. However, it could be nepotism. We're not really sure, but it's wild.
now marked as exhibit number 49. Can you tell the court what's depicted in this photograph?
The vehicle that was parked in the front driveway that I took photos of.
Will, they took photos of this woman's car, and the car had nothing to do with the death of her husband because he died of a heart attack inside the house. And he's from Crime Scene Services, which apparently they have there. Crime Scene Services. Those are the people that are supposed to come and do the evidence collection for Massachusetts State Police, because that's the way they did it in this case. See? It's crazy town here.
And do you know approximately how far that vehicle was parked from the curb?
Yeah.
I don't have a foot number if you're asking for that.
He didn't take measurements, but he took pictures at least.
Right outside the front entrance.
But you know what? He didn't need to take any measurements because the car was not even involved in the death. Not even. It wasn't even suspected to have been involved in the death.
And could we see number 88, please?
There's
Trooper,
Ms.
we're now
Crawford.
displaying exhibit number 50. Can you explain what we see in this photograph?
That is the same vehicle outside the front of the house.
And if you look at the door in this photograph, is that the front door or the side door of the home?
Front door.
Could we see number 91, please? Trooper, we're now showing you exhibit number 51.
More photos of the car.
What do we see in this photograph?
The same vehicle.
Could we see number 92, please? Trooper, exhibit number 52, what do you see here?
The interior of that vehicle.
And on the front, on the passenger seat of the vehicle, can you tell the court what you see there?
A blanket.
And the white object that's in the middle of the photograph, what is that?
Phone charger.
Are you referencing a bottle? The bottle?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your answer.
Are you referencing the cord?
Yes, is that a?
Yes, it looks like a charging cord.
She does, yeah.
Charging cord.
She looks different.
Could we see exhibit, or number 93, please, exhibit 53? Can you tell me what you see here, Trooper?
Yep, the same cord, center console of the vehicle with two bottles in the cup holders.
2 bottles of what? It looks like water. It's not a bottle of wine.
We could see number 96, please.
Hold on, we're just going to take one quick scooch. We're going to take one quick scooch over to Colleen Crawford's LinkedIn profile. This is the Colleen Crawford who works for Norfolk DA's. I think this is the one who's the expert. So I don't think that's her, but I don't know how old this picture is, so I don't know. They're calling her Ms. Crawford. So I'm going to think that it's not her, but it could be someone related to her, or maybe she dyed her hair. I don't know. All right.
Exhibit 54. What do we see in this photograph, Trooper?
It's the rear seat behind the driver's seat, and 2 bags, one that's on the seat and one that's on the floor area behind the seat.
And there's a light brown object up on the top of the screen there in the middle. Can you tell the court what that is?
It's a paper bag that was on the floor behind the passenger seat.
If we could see exhibit number 98, please. I'm sorry, JPEG 98, exhibit number 55.
Oh, there's a closed bottle of wine.
Trooper, what do we see in this photograph?
That is that bag that was behind the driver's seat.
And what is the orange object that we see?
It appears to be a bottle of wine.
I don't know. She's a Brookline socialite. I'm thinking she doesn't drink a screw top. That looks like it's sealed to me, but it also looks like it could be a screw top. So is it a full? Who cares? What is the point of this? Whether she was drunk or not, she still didn't kill him.
We could see JPEG number 99, please. Exhibit 56.
It's a
Trooper,
stretch.
what do we see in this photograph?
You see that brown paper bag behind the passenger seat?
And what's contained within that brown paper bag?
A bottle of wine.
Do you know how many bottles of wine are in there?
Memory serves, I believe, 2, but I'm not positive on the number.
Okay, so
More
she
than
went to the
one?
wine store?
I believe so, yes.
More than one? Did you hear what she said? More than one? Like, talk about judgmental. More than one bottle of wine in a bag in her car? No one said she smelled the alcohol, no. The first time that her daughter Zuzzie ever said that she was slurring her words and stumbling was on the stand. Yesterday.
More than one?
I believe so, yes.
More than one? Yep, same
We
courtroom.
could see number 100, please. Exhibit number 57. Trooper, what's depicted in this photograph?
That same bag with 2 bottles.
I can't believe how empty this courtroom is.
Exhibit 58, number 101, please.
Yeah, at least it's not boxed wine.
Trooper, what do we see in this photograph?
The black bag that was behind the driver's seat on the
And-
rear passenger seat.
And what is on top of that bag?
A clear plastic bottle.
It looks, I don't know what that
Does
is.
there appear to be a top on the bottle?
No.
And number 102, please. Trooper, we're showing you exhibit number 59. What's depicted in this photograph?
It's the same bag and bottle.
I mean, it's got red residue in the bottom. Could be red wine. I don't know. Could be Crystal Light. That's right.
Thank you,
Lindsay.
Trooper. I have no further questions.
It could be Crystal Light. She drank her ex to death. Was she going to have some wine? Guilty. Boone's Farm Candy Apple Red. Oh, please, Larry, find the mic, please.
Trooper, if you could look at the screen and reviewing exhibit number 49, the car. The car is parked. Can you describe how the car is parked?
Can you describe how the car is
Parked
parked?
with the nose of the car facing the house. Pulled in, not backed in.
In the driveway.
Correct.
And when you look at exhibit, if I could, exhibit number.
She wasn't recycling. That's what this is about. They're mad. Clear case of bottle hoarding, says Ducati girl.
59, which is 102. We see a black bag and a bottle, correct?
Yes.
And then if we could have exhibit 57, 101, I'm sorry, 58, number 101. And now, is that supposed to be the same bottle and the same black bag?
Yes.
But the bottle's in a different position.
Correct.
So someone has moved or manipulated the bottle.
Correct.
And would that someone be you?
It may have been. I don't remember if I did or not.
Okay. And
He's saying the bottle looks like it was moved. Was it you who moved it? He said, oh, it might have been. I don't know.
so, as is it common procedure, Trooper, that when you're photographing particular things at a crime scene like this movie, that you may in fact move objects?
Depends if we have to pull the seat forward to get a better view of something, et cetera. So we may manipulate things.
In any of these photographs that were just admitted into evidence, did you see anything depicting a cell phone?
Just the cord.
Just the cord,
Correct.
that white cord that you saw.
Yes.
Did you see anything in these photographs depicting car keys?
Not that I recall.
Do you recall, Trooper, if you, Trooper, specifically you, did you ask Miss McGee for her car keys when you went to take photographs of the car?
No, she was not there.
She was not there.
Correct.
This was 1 a.m. when he got there. She wasn't there. Did you ask Miss McGee for her car key? Yeah, we manipulate things. I caught that too, Libra in Seattle. Well done.
And am I correct in saying that you were first told to go to the Meadowbrook, 40 Meadowbrook, and you did so, and you arrived there around 1 o'clock, 8 a.m.?
About 1:30.
About 1:30?
Oh, you just said one before.
And then you took some photographs, and then you were asked to go to Beth Israel to take other photographs?
Correct.
And then after that, you were asked to go back to Meadowbrook to photograph what was referred to as the execution of search.
Correct.
Oh, the execution of a search warrant. That's why he died. He wasn't pronounced dead until after midnight. So that's why this is all being done after midnight, because now it's a death case.
It'd be about 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m.?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Any follow-up to that? No, ma'am. All right, Trooper, thank you very much. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trooper.
Who is your next one? The Commonwealth calls Officer Russell.
Okay, I lied. There's 3 witnesses. Sorry. Officer Russell. He was quick. All right. You're all set. You're all set. Wonder if they say God save the Commonwealth if there's no jury. Like, do they only want God to save the Commonwealth when there's a jury there? You're all set.
Good morning. Could you please state your name?
Officer Sean Russell with the Brookline Police Department.
And what is your position with the Brookline Police Department?
I work patrol
And how long have you worked for the Brookline Police Department?
since June of 2002.
And as a patrol officer, what do your duties include?
Basically, patrolling the streets, answering calls, servicing calls, helping people.
And were you working on January 20th of 2020?
I was.
And what was your shift that evening?
My original shift is midnight, so I was working an overtime shift. I was in the Sector 9 vehicle.
So, and can you explain for the court, what is the Sector 9 vehicle?
Brookline basically breaks down each area of a sector. So you have Sector 1 through 9. 1 would be over near Commonwealth Avenue, and Sector 9 would be over near West Roxbury.
Is it required that you have a wicked good Boston accent to get hired by the Brookline PD?
And at some point, did you receive a call to respond to 40 Meadowbrook Road in Brookline?
I did.
And what sector is Meadowbrook Road?
That is Sector 7.
But did you respond to 40 Meadowbrook Road,
I did.
even though you were assigned to the Sector 9 that night?
I did. It originally came in as a domestic dispute, and any type of domestic disputes, they send 2 or 3 vehicles.
Domestic, 2 or 3
So what
vehicles.
time did you arrive at 40 Meadowbrook Road?
That call came in approximately at the end of the shift. I remember I was starting to head back towards the police station, which I would have had to driven right by that street. So it was approximately 11:05-ish.
And when you got there, what did you do?
Arrived on scene, went directly into the house.
And when you went into the house, what did you see?
When I first got to the front door, I really couldn't open the door. There was a body lying behind the door, so I could only open the door approximately a third of the way, maybe a little more. I had to squeeze into the house.
And was anybody with the body?
Yes, Officer Yanez was with the body.
Were there any other responders there when you got there?
When I got there, Officer Yanez was already on scene, and the wagon, which is also known as a 555 vehicle, Officer O'Connor and I believe Officer Burke were on scene.
Ooh, wagon 555 vehicle. Is that an ambulance? What is that? Wagon, a 555 vehicle. Teach me something, chat.
And what did you do upon seeing the body on the floor and the other responders there with the body?
Originally, I would immediately help out with CPR, but Officer Yanez and I believe Officer Burke There's already two officers working on CPR. So when I did enter the house, I kind of worked my way around the person on the floor, and I was walked up to a woman that was standing in the living room area.
And what was the woman doing?
She was kind of pacing. She looked like she was in shock or anxious.
Shock and horror?
Did she say anything?
At the time, like I said, she was a little shocked. She really wasn't very talkative at the beginning, but then she explained to me that that was her ex-husband, and she had come over to talk to him.
And where within the house were you when this was occurring?
We were in go to the front door to the right, the living room area.
And at any point, or did she say anything else?
She did state that she was, going to leave, but I assumed that she was going to want to go to the hospital with the gentleman. But I asked her, please have a seat first and wait with me.
Was anybody else there with you when that happened?
No, it was just me and her at the time.
And who was the individual that you were talking to?
Mrs. McGee.
Did you ask Ms. McGee who she was?
I did.
And what did she say?
She said that was her ex-husband.
And did she tell you what had happened that night?
Well, the call originally came in as a domestic, and then, I heard them right before I got there that they were asking if paramedics found an ambulance to speed it up. So I didn't know if it was called in originally by accident as a domestic. So I did ask her, I said, what was going on? And as I was talking to her, I could see the way the house is situated. You go into the right is the living room, but then you can kind of poke around, you can see the kitchen. I did see a few things on the floor. So I kind of asked her what had happened.
And what did she say?
She had mentioned that she had come over there to speak with her husband about an email that she had seen that was from her ex-husband to his brother.
And did she explain anything else that happened after she got there?
She said that they started talking. She wasn't happy about the email because it said something about evicting her or asking her to move out of the apartment that he had owned, the brother owned. And then she said it started out as just a verbal discussion, and then it got a little heated.
And when you say it got a little heated, did she tell you what happened?
He had begun to ask her to leave, and from what she stated, he started pushing her towards the door, which was actually through the kitchen towards the hallway.
And what happened next?
And
What did she say happened next?
Well, she stated that when he was pushing her kind of towards the door, he wanted her to leave, that some of the, because I asked her, you could see plates and some containers and stuff like that on the ground. She said that when he was pushing her, those all got knocked over.
And did
When he
she
was
tell you
pushing
what
her,
ultimately
all those plates got knocked over and broken.
happened to him?
She stated when they got to the hallway, which is directly in front of the front door, that he just collapsed.
Now, after Ms. McGee told you that, what did you do?
Well, at that point, we were she had sat down, so she wasn't free to walk about the apartment, the house, because I didn't want her to touch anything. And then we kind of waited, found the ambulance was there. Then the paramedics came in. They got, I believe, Mr. Savitz. They got him breathing again, and they moved him out of the house.
And what did you do?
At that point, when they started, when Fallon and the paramedics all came in, I believe Sergeant Tian and Officer Yanez came in to speak with Mrs. McGee. I briefly told Officer Yanez what she had told me, and then I went upstairs to see who was upstairs.
And who did you see upstairs?
When I got upstairs, I was met by Officer Soderberg and Officer O'Connor, and I was also met by her daughter, I believe it's Zuzzie.
And anybody else?
When I kind of walked around a little bit upstairs, I noticed there was a young boy in the bedroom sitting in the bed.
Did you have any conversation with the boy?
No, not really. He seemed, Zuzzie said he didn't see anything, so I didn't feel it was necessary to.
Oh, Zuzzie said he didn't see anything. Zuzzie hates her mother, remember? All right, but Harry looked scared, so he didn't interrogate Harry.
So I didn't want to make him any more nervous.
Yes.
Did you speak to Zuzzie?
I did.
What did Zuzzie say?
She stated that her mother came over to talk to her father, like 20, 30 minutes prior. She could hear them arguing downstairs. She went downstairs.
It's got to be like a hearsay objection.
Maybe approach it.
Yeah, approach. No jury. Oops. Buffering.
Officer Russell,
Something was excluded. Imagine that.
Officer Russell, did you observe any vehicles outside of the home?
Wait, hold on. Somebody said that Colleen Crawford is to the left, is sitting at the prosecution table on the left here. I don't know if this is her because I only see like a plaid jacket sitting next to this gentleman. So my eagle-eyed viewers, keep your eye out and see if we can find out that it really is Colleen Crawford. It's not this woman that we were pointing out before. She must be the court reporter. We can't see her talking into an athletic supporter, but she's hidden behind this big screen here. So perhaps this is Colleen Crawford sitting at the prosecution table all the way on the left side. Her face is blocked right now. Keep an eye out.
Did you observe any vehicles outside of the home?
I did not.
Did you ask Ms. McGee, or did you make any observations of Ms. McGee with regards to whether or not she had any injuries?
We asked her if she needed, she had no injuries, but we asked her if she wanted to see a family ambulance.
And what was her response?
She declined.
Thank you, officer. I have no further questions.
Well, you didn't see any injuries, but you respond to domestics all the time, don't you, officer? Don't you respond to domestics all the time? Isn't that what you just told us? So isn't it true that oftentimes a victim of a domestic may not have visible injuries because oftentimes the perpetrator knows how to hurt them so that it doesn't leave a mark? Be my question.
You never wrote
Come on.
fair to say that you never wrote a report in this matter?
I did not.
No report.
And you did testify under direct examination, and you described the demeanor of Ms. McGee as in shock.
Correct.
And she didn't see pain.
Not really.
And when you say she had no, you just now said she had no injuries. Do you mean that, is it more accurate to say she didn't complain of any injuries, correct?
She didn't complain of any injuries, no.
But it's not that you're saying that you examined her body to see if she had bruising on the side of the face.
Well done.
No, there was no scratches or anything on her face. Okay. I would have asked her immediately if she needed any help.
If you saw some visual representation of an injury, you would have asked.
Yes, sir.
You also recalled on direct examination that she said words to the effect of, "I have to go to the hospital with him."
She actually said, I have to leave, which I assume she wanted to go to the hospital with me.
Let me ask you something, officer. You met with the prosecutors here on January 24th of 2025, correct?
I don't know the exact day. It was a Friday.
Friday of last week.
Oh, last Friday.
And is it fair to say that that was the first time that you ever met with prosecutors in relation to this case?
What?
Correct.
And is it fair to say then that you were asked questions about what you remember, what you recall, and you did the best you could, correct?
Correct.
And so it's your testimony today that you don't recall telling the prosecutors that Ms. McGee said, quote, "I have to go," and then stated, "I have to go to the hospital with him."
No, I stated, she said, I have to go, which I assumed that she wanted to go to the hospital with me.
And you remember all this even though you didn't write a report. And the first time that you ever talked to anybody was last Friday. Okay. And it was 5 years ago. I mean, I don't think he's hurting anybody, but. Oh, the families are opposite, Angela says. Okay, Angela says the brother who testified and the rest of the Andrews family are behind Penny.
When you met with the prosecutor,
The families are opposite of Karen's case. That's interesting. So Andrew's family are not staring Penny down. They're sitting behind her. That's the way it should be in the Karen Reed case too, if you ask me. 100%. Okay, Your Honor. Judge Cannone, why is it that in Karen Reed's case, you have Paul O'Keefe and Peggy O'Keefe and Mr. O'Keefe and everybody else who they call to bring in, like the Aruba sisters and the Sullivan sisters and every other mook that they want to come in, Brian Albert, Jennifer McGee, looking straight at the jury and staring down Karen Reed. When in the Penny McGee trial, well, there's no jury here again, but why it should be flipped. The O'Keefes should not be allowed to stare down Karen Reed during the trial for all of television worldwide to see.
last Friday.
Thank you, Angela.
Did they ask you to review any prior statements that were made?
No.
Did they show you any prior, did they show you any Brookline Police Department reports written by your colleagues in relation to this case?
No.
May I vote you?
Yes.
Officer Russell, I'm just going to show you what's a two-page letter. Have you ever seen that before?
I have not.
Yeah.
You want to read this? Or?
No, I'm just.
Okay. No, I've never seen
When you
it.
look at that today, you've never seen it.
This documentation? I have not seen this documentation before, no.
I'd ask this to be marked right here.
Good question, Sunflower. Do there tend to be less questions on direct and bench trials because the judge knows the case so well, or am I just used to Lally, who asked about the snow, the high top tables, and banned millions of times? You're just used to Lally. The judge does not know all the facts or what all the witnesses are going to say, but that's a great question. Thank you, Shauna. It was a fun time.
I think it goes to the, you know, better, Mr. Hughes, I think it goes to the next letter, P or Q or whatever it was, right?
Yeah, we'll have to start with, so we had.
So it would be L, the next letter.
Thank you, Dennis the Menace, for tuning in from Canada and for pointing out that that may beat Colleen Crawford at the prosecution table. We're going to take a look and see.
Thank you, officer, you're all set.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. I think. Hold on. No, he was not involved in Karen Reed's case because he's from Brookline.
My next witness is Lieutenant Richards.
All right, I totally lied because there's another witness. It just was only really 2 hours total. So I felt like there was only 2 witnesses, but there was more. All right, is that Colleen Crawford? Wait, stop. Hold on. Everybody, she's drinking. She's drinking right now. Let me see if I can zoom in. Hold on. Because now, inquiring minds. Okay. I don't know if we're going to get a better view than this, but here's her LinkedIn picture. I don't know how old this picture is, but here she is. Is that her? I don't know. Inquiring minds. Oh, Clerk Jim is not there, so the judge is swearing in the witness. That's interesting.
Good morning. Could you please state your name?
My name is Raymond Richards,
And by whom are you employed?
the town of Brookline Police Department.
And what is your position with the Brookline Police Department?
Currently, I'm a lieutenant detective with the Office of Professional Responsibility.
And how long have you worked for the Brookline Police Department?
14 years.
And were you working on January 28th, 2020?
I was.
And what did your duties include on that day?
So I was the acting commanding officer, or that day I was the commanding officer. So I arrived about 11:15, and I oversee all operations patrol related.
So was part of your duties that evening to book any individuals that got brought into the station?
Yes.
Did you have occasion on that evening to book an individual by the name of Penelope McGee?
I did.
We booked her.
And can you explain to the court
Wait.
how the booking process works?
She was booked on the same day? Dude died of a heart attack.
So typically the prisoner or subject will be brought down to the lower part of the station. I'll be given a packet on all their personal information, and then I'll put that into the system, update it, and then go down and start the booking process.
Hi, Michelle.
Would you like me to expound upon that?
Yes, please.
All right. So in our system, the Larimore reporting system, there's pretty much a checklist that you follow. You have to complete each window that'll take you to the next one. So initially, It's usually personal information, where they live, address, date of birth, that sort of thing. We'll move on to the charges. You input the charges they're being charged with. There's a medical screening questions, and then personal property, do an inventory. And I should back up. The first part is an introduction to the, I introduce myself, let them know who I am, why they're there at the station. I also will read them their Miranda warnings and inform them of their use to use the telephone before we start. Typically, after all of that's finished, they will then take a photo and then fingerprints. And at that point, that's really all I'll do. I'll package that up and then that'll complete.
And as a result of that process, do you generate a booking sheet, a booking property sheet, and a medical intake sheet?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you complete this process with Ms. McGee?
I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Yes.
I don't know what the charges were then, but now she's on trial for manslaughter, facing 20 years. Bench trial in front of.
Lieutenant, I'm handing
What
you a
up,
document.
Dakota?
Do you recognize this document?
Yes, this is the standard booking sheet.
And is this the booking sheet for Ms. McGee that you completed on January 28th, 2020?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I move to introduce this exhibit.
How did they arrest her when he died of a heart attack and all of his other comorbidities?
Lieutenant, I'm handing you another document. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What is this?
This is a list of property that would print out, so it would be just a standard booking property sheet.
And is this the property sheet from Ms. McGee from January 20th?
It is.
28th, 2020?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I move to introduce this as the next exhibit.
Her hair is wicked long.
Lieutenant, I'm showing you one last document. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, this is the medical intake.
And is this the medical intake for Ms. McGee from January 20th, 2020?
It is.
Thank you.
Hey, girl,
I move to introduce
hey.
this as the next
I love you. I miss you. Hey, girl, hey. Great question. Ms. Holmes, 66. How did she get charged at night? He had a heart attack. Wasn't shot or bludgeoned or strangled? Nope. None of the above. In fact, he beat her, pushed her against the wall, and pulled her by the hair. Maybe she was arrested originally for DVA due to the call. Thank you, Libra in Seattle, for bringing us back down to earth. Maybe he'll tell us what the charges are.
Would have just been marked as exhibits 60 through 62.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe when he pushed her, he gave himself a heart attack. That's right, Desert Cat. I go with that.
Now, drawing your attention to the medical intake sheet,
Yes.
did you ask Ms. McGee if she had any pain or injury?
I did.
And what was her response?
No.
What about any current illness? What was her response?
No.
Did you ask her if she was on medication?
I did.
And what was her response?
Yes.
Did you ask her if she had used any alcohol?
I did.
And what was her response?
Yes.
Did you ask her if she had used any drugs?
I did.
And what was her response?
No.
And further on in the form, you asked her a number of other questions pertaining to her medical condition, correct?
That is correct.
Now, on this medical intake sheet, is there an area where you can make notes or comments regarding the information you receive from the person that you're booking?
Yes.
Did you make any comments regarding Ms. McGee during her booking process?
I did.
What were the comments that you made?
So typically with a yes answer, we'll indicate a comment based on the response. So the first one was the medication, and I listed out, hopefully I don't have to pronounce those, but I listed out the medication that she said that she takes.
Thanks, Larry.
And then did you make any other comments?
On alcohol use today, she said, or last stated around 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. on, so at this time it's January 29th, so that would be the previous evening.
And what time, by the way, on January 29th, 2020, was this booking process taking place?
So originally she came into the station at right around 2, I think it was like 1:58. And then at that time, detectives brought her up for an interview, as I indicated, I think on exhibit 60. And then she came back down where I booked her and continued the process. I may have started it, but I don't exactly recall. She came down and we finished the booking process.
Okay, so at the top of this medical intake sheet, what's the time that's indicated that this was being completed?
That's 4:10 a.m.
And that's on January 29th of 2020.
That's correct, ma'am.
And then the booking property sheet, can you just explain for the court the purpose of this sheet?
It was today.
So this is just to do an inventory of all her items, anything that she comes to our station with, just so we can account for it.
Watch, they're gonna be like, she was wearing a Rolex And she had a Chanel purse. Watch.
Typically,
Maybe. I don't know.
we'll list out all the items that's inventoried prior to me getting there, and then I will review it with the prisoner that came in to ensure that that seems accurate to them.
And what did she have in her property?
She had 1 bottle of hydroxyzin, cell phone, 3 signed checks, a set of keys, a vehicle title, and then bulk property indicates we have to put it in a different section, a green purse, a gray sweater, a change purse. Looks like approximately $15 in cash. And I did not make those indications afterwards, like what was it dropped off for bail. I don't believe a belt, some earrings, a watch, a necklace, and 2 rings.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Just going back to the medical intake sheet, there is a section right below the biographical information that indicates observations. What did you check off after observations?
No problems observed.
Yeah. Did she have a Fall River accent? And no ass?
Thank you, Lieutenant. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Hydroxyzine. Isn't that like eye drops? Isn't that like Visine? I don't know.
Morning, Jim.
Good morning, sir.
So you have these
What's
procedures that you have to follow
allergy
when someone's
meds?
brought in to the police station, correct?
Yes.
In fact, Boston, the Brookline Police Department has a whole set of policies.
Yeah, we know.
Dealing with booking and probably every aspect of being a police officer for Brookline. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
And I think they're, if you know, they're over 700 pages, aren't they?
It's quite big.
And one of the policies of the Brookline Police Department that's written has to do with encountering intoxicated detainees, correct?
Okay, he's talking about the policies and procedures of the Brookline Police Department, and one of those procedures has to do with encountering intoxicated detainees.
I don't know if it specifically is its own section, but it does talk about that, yes.
Okay, and I didn't mean to say something that confused you, and I did, so I apologize.
Sure.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Oh, it's anti-anxiety? I thought that you said it was a liquid though.
Policy.
Oh, he said bottle and I assumed liquid. You mean a bottle of pills? Okay. All right.
Alcohol and/or drugs are serious injury. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
And so when you have a suspicion that somebody is intoxicated,
Manslaughter.
the Brookline Police Department, you have to deal with that, don't you? In a professional way. You have to make assessments of whether someone's intoxicated, if they need some kind of treatment or special care, correct?
Of course.
It's fair to say. And what's the EMS system?
Emergency medical system?
And so if someone's intoxicated, your policies say that you need to decide whether to notify the EMS system, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Now, it's fair to say that with regards to Ms. McGee coming to the Brookline Police Department that early morning hours, you didn't see any reason to activate the EMS system, correct?
No, I didn't.
You had no indication from your interaction with Ms. McGee that she was under the influence of alcohol or drugs or anything of the sort, did you?
Not that I recall, no.
And in fact, when what's been introduced as exhibit number 62, the medical intake sheet, the Commonwealth just asked you, did you check off a box with regards to your observations, and you checked off the box, no problems observed. Is that fair to say?
That's correct, yes.
Now, this same area in this booking sheet has a lot of different categories, and one of the categories is strange behavior. You didn't notice any strange behavior on behalf of
No strange behavior.
You didn't see that Ms. McGee was moving difficulty. That's what it says, moving difficulty. You didn't see any of that.
I did not.
You didn't see anything severe shakes, did you?
I did not, no.
Did not see anything that posed a security risk, did you?
No.
You didn't note that she was seemed confused, did you?
No.
That her skin, eyes yellow.
No.
Is that meaning that the color yellow, so it raises an issue of jaundice or something like that?
I gotta be honest, I've never checked that box. So
No, a little chuckle out of the judge. Little Judge Cannone chuckle. Look at this. Oh, my freeze game is on point today. Yeah, jaundice. He's like, I've never checked that box before.
Is that meaning that the color yellow, so it raises an issue of jaundice or something like that?
I gotta be honest, I've never checked that box. So
So that box goes under you.
Yeah.
And then right after that box, there's a box of medical attention. That wasn't checked, right?
that was not, no.
Indicating you had no reason to believe she needed medical attention, correct?
Correct.
She wasn't making complaints about any injuries or anything at that time, correct?
Nope.
And it's not that you examined her physically, that's not what you do, but she didn't make any complaints, correct?
No.
Fair to say, during this booking process, Ms. McGee was cooperative.
Yes.
She listened to your questions. She responded to your questions in an appropriate way, correct?
Yes.
In fact, there's a box there that wasn't checked off that says refuses to cooperate. That wasn't checked, was it?
No.
And finally, the last box there is can't answer questions. That wasn't checked, was it?
No.
Because she was answering those questions, right?
She was.
She was answering those questions coherently, correct?
Correct.
And then finally, there is a box that I skipped over, and it's entitled appears intoxicated, correct?
Correct.
And that box is not checked out.
That is correct.
Because
Nope.
She
Did not appear intoxicated.
She did not.
Something funny, Judge Bev?
Now, turning your attention, or turning the court's attention to what's been marked Exhibit 61, entitled the booking, oh, we call that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We know that she can be
Back to
nice,
number
Jason.
62, the same one we just asked about. There's a section for comments, correct?
Yes.
And the Commonwealth asked you, you did ask her a series of questions, her being Ms. McGee, and you asked her, were you on medication? And she answered yes.
Yes.
You actually asked her alcohol used, and she answered yes, correct?
Yes.
Now, in the comments box right below that is where you enter comments, and it's fair to say that she told you, yes, stated around 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. on January 28th, 2020, correct?
Yes.
She told you that.
Yes.
And she gave you a list of the medications.
No, I don't believe he's a public defender. This is Larry Tipton, Marcello. He also represents Brian Walsh. I don't think he's a public defender.
And those are kind of complicated names that she was able to use. What-
I believe so. Yes. Yep.
And I'm turning now to what's been marked, Exhibit 60, that is the booking sheet itself. And it appears that in this booking sheet at the bottom, it says booked by Castanio Matty Jr. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
So on direct examination, you were asked, did you conduct the booking? And you said yes. So why does this sheet marked Exhibit 60 say booked by Matty Jr.?
I can't explain that. It might just be an error for me, but patrolmen cannot book. It has to be a sergeant or higher.
Okay.
So that might just be an error. It might be on my part.
Okay, but there's no question that Exhibit 60 is a booking sheet, Exhibit 61 is the booking property sheet, and Exhibit number 62 is a medical intake sheet, and you were the one that entered the data into the sheet.
That is correct.
And you're the one that interacted with Ms. McGee at the Brookline Police Department.
Yes.
I mean, they use socialite as a fancy title, but she was getting divorced. I don't know how much money she had. She got evicted from the place she was renting. So I don't know if she could qualify for a public defender. I'm getting conflicting responses. And I don't think that Brian Walsh, I think Brian Walsh does have a public defender now that I think of it, because, he had been convicted on those, trying to sell those fake Andy Warhol paintings on eBay. And he was going through all that stuff. And I don't know that he had any money either to hire a lawyer. So now I'll find out.
On exhibit number 60, the booking sheet.
Yes.
As counsel just elicited from you, it does say booked by Castanio Matty Jr., correct?
Correct.
But in the notes section, there's a note that says arrived at station for interview at 1:58, 6-hour hold, not eligible for bail. Sergeant RWR, do you know whose initials those are?
Those are mine.
And did you enter that note and put your initials there?
Yes.
And you were a sergeant at the time?
I was.
And does your name appear in the box right above that says rights given, Raymond Richards?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can tell you, I'm all set, sir.
Thank you.
You're all set, sir.
Your Honor, I have a question.
I'm trying to get to mass courts, and it's like I got to click 14 boxes with all motorcycles, all the buses, all the what? What are we doing here? That never happens. I mean, sometimes it happens, but hardly ever. Hold on.
Is it for, okay, so, Mr. Clerk, that is it for today. We will begin at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I expect that tomorrow will be a little bit of a short day as well.
Short day tomorrow as well. You're all set.
Or just that statement. So, we're
all
going to
set.
the document, the exhibit out into evidence It's my
It is Larry Tipton. Yes, Jason. Yes. Ding, ding, ding.
statement is now in evidence. Do you have it right there that you can read it in? Or Mr. McGee will read in. The following statement is in evidence.
Just say. So Officer Russell stated that Penelope McGee said, I have to go to hospital with him.
Stated that on January 29th or 28th.
Yes, on January 28th, 24th.
All right. So this is the end of the day today. And then tomorrow, we'll be coming back. Let's see if we can see Colleen. Not Colleen Hoover. Colleen Crawford. Hold on.
Court will rise, please.
Is that her? Oh. That is not Laura McLaughlin. Oh, he is a public defender, says Susan. Hi, Susan. Thanks for chiming in. He also defended Alyssa Delmano. Yes, Brian Walsh is in this building as well, Beach Bum. In this exact same building, camera will go off, and we will reconvene tomorrow, my friends. 10 a.m. Who wants to do it? Raise your hand if you want to come back tomorrow and cover this live with me. 10 a.m. right back in the courtroom of Justice Beverly Cannone. Thank you guys so much for doing this with me. We caught up on the entire trial in just one evening of 3 hours and 40 minutes. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see all of Zuzzie's testimony. I'm going to try and look and see if we can find it somewhere because we couldn't find it because Court TV sucks. Let me just see if we have any more questions. Thank you again to Lori Life 360 for the win for your $10 super chat. Loving Melanie After Dark. Thank you. And look at Elizabeth Mullins, Lupus Lady, gifting 5 memberships. And congratulations to the 5 of you who were randomly selected. Look at us. We're like hardcore. It's like 12:30 a.m. Now it's January 30th. So yesterday was the 3-year anniversary of John O'Keefe's death. We did a moment of silence earlier and yesterday. And Dennis the Menace, thanks for tuning in from Canada. Appreciate you so much. Thank you to the moderators who are amazing. This is a crazy case. You got to catch up. For those of you just tuning in, let me just tell you what had happened. Penny McGee, Penelope McGee of Brookline, Massachusetts, is being tried in Norfolk County Superior Court in front of Justice Beverly Cannone on a bench trial. She has waived a jury trial. She is charged with manslaughter in the death of her ex-husband, Andrew Savitz, who actually ran Michael Dukakis' 1988 presidential campaign. She is charged with manslaughter, facing up to 20 years in prison after she had an altercation with her husband, which she says was verbal. Apparently, he hit her and dragged her around and pushed her up against the cabinets. He died of a heart attack because he had severe coronary artery disease with 90% occlusion in one of his coronary arteries. He had been in 2 major car accidents recently, had a stroke 6 months prior, also had diabetes and dementia, and died of a heart attack after she yelled at him because he evicted her from the house his brother owned. So she's on trial for manslaughter in Norfolk Superior. We'll be back tomorrow to cover it at 10 a.m. live because finally someone has picked it up. All of you in Massachusetts didn't even know anything about this case. So thank you so very much for hanging out with me tonight. And if there's any more questions here, I just want to address. Oh, thank you very much, Christina, for your Venmo. I appreciate you so very much for streaming fun. Thank you so much. Let's come back. The brothers of Andrew Savitz. We watched one of their testimony until Court TV kept kicking us off the website. I thought he was a pompous duck. He was a pompous duck. He didn't really seem to care about evicting her and her 3 children from the house that the trust owned. And there was no love lost there because there were some text messages that we saw. We didn't see all the text messages between. It doesn't seem like they gave a duck about their own brother because when he was in the hospital, they weren't even contacting him. So there's that. I've only seen one that took the stand. Is there more than one? I don't know. Thank you, Free Karen Reed 2024 for your super sticker. I appreciate you so. Let me see if there's anything else here before we wrap. Hope this isn't Sarah Boone 2.0. This woman didn't do anything. This woman was having a verbal altercation with a man who had a lot of comorbidities, died of a heart attack, and this is in my opinion, a completely political persecution of this woman because Andrew Savitz Is that his name? Savitz? Oh, sorry. Not Sarowitz. I'm thinking of Steve Sarowitz in the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case that I was just on before this with Josh Ritter on Courtroom Confidential talking about that case. It's Andrew Savitz. Savitz is her ex-husband. He was apparently very politically connected in the Democratic Party. Maybe he was friends with Michael Marcy. I don't know. But I don't know why they are persecuting this woman and charging her with manslaughter. And who knows what Judge Cannone is going to do with this, but we're here for it and we're going to watch it and we're going to see it tomorrow at 10. Be here or be square. Thanks, Pierre, for your 5. Appreciate all of you so very much. Please smash the like button on your way out so I don't have to turn off the air conditioning. And this is a lot of fun. I'm glad you guys brought this to my attention. I'm glad we caught up in one day and we get to now cover it live. And Scott McGinnis, big free Karen Reed movement guy. It would be typical DA Meatball Marcy, a politically motivated persecution. Yes. Oh, here, I'll give you my email, Eva. Hold on. It is. And this is the only email I use, so please don't Google and try and find some email that's not mine. It is fanbase@mlittlelaw.com. Thank you so very much. I will see you tomorrow morning. As I always like to say, thank you, moderators. Thank you, viewers, replay viewers, channel members. I love you all of my heart. If I don't see you soon, I'm going to die. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. It is not hard. Really, it is so not hard. You are so much better than all of those mean, vitriolic people out there on the cesspool of Twitter. I know you can do it. See you in the morning. Peace. Share it out with anybody who you think might be interested in watching this trial with us because, it helps the algorithm and all. Good night, my friends.